Big?
I just had a 30 Rock like deep cut flashback when Jenna has all the crab catchers that are like her fans.
Oh, right.
And she like, let's pop a Bruce guy. And she goes, ka-chunk, blinky, blinky, blinky. And Frank's like, that's not even the right noises.
Blinky, blinky, blink.
Blinky, blinky, blink. Anyway, the things that pop into my brain. Yeah. Let's do this thing, shall we?
Yes.
Pencast.
Let's do it.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to episode number 74 of the Goulet Pencast, where fountain pens are still a thing. I am Brian Goulet.
I am Drew Brown.
And we are here from Goulet Pens to deliver this casual and informal, tangential and extraneous, superfluous and extemporaneous fountain pen show, where we talk about what's going on at the Goulet Pen Company and in our fountain pen lives. In today's show, we are going to be talking about how our nib tastes, specifically our sizes, tastes,
not
like actually tasting the nibs. Yeah.
Well, I need to change my answer.
The preference of nib sizes for each of us, change your notes, have evolved over time. We're going to talk about our ink changing habits, like how often we change ink in pens and so on. We have some lesser known fountain pen friendly papers that we're going to talk about. What do we do with our pen boxes after we get new pens? My favorite brown ink and Drew's favorite blue to mix things up a little bit. And we're going to be spotlighting the LAMY Aion. Not new, but something that we don't talk about very much. And we got some other rando things that we're going to talk about. So let's kick it off with some feedback.
I've got some feedback.
Yeah? Well, that's very appropriate then.
Oh, it's not on here.
Timing. Oh, okay. Impromptu feedback.
What's in the bowl there?
Oh, it is a rather random assortment. I had a very eclectic lunch today.
2 tiny pieces of apple, 1/2 eaten.
I sliced up an apple, so I have the remainders of the apple slices. We got some like dried fruit.
Oh, I thought that was just a really gnawed-on piece of apple.
No, it's like dried fruit. I don't even actually know what it is, but it's like marshmallowy in texture. It's very odd. I have a couple pieces of chocolate because I am Liam Neeson when it comes to chocolate.
Oh, man.
I have the rest of my smoothie that I haven't finished yet from lunch, and I made myself some hot chocolate, and I have my water. I basically have a whole buffet at the table here.
There's a lot going on here.
I don't know. This is
and all those, the water bottle is on one of those furniture movers, so he is not loud about it.
Yeah,
but
I don't have an actual coaster, so I just grabbed like a furniture pad from our supply room, and I was like, well, this is soft and coaster shaped. So, it's crushing it. It's like the quietest coaster you'll ever have.
Yeah, that's very true.
But then the coffee mug I grabbed is a little bit loud, and I guess I could grab another coaster, but I just folded up a piece of paper and put it on that. Just take the edge off.
Problem solver.
Yeah.
Anyway, legit feedback, non-impromptu feedback. We got one that I thought was very interesting. This is from Tanway. Hello from India. I am a fan of both of you, so let me start by saying turkey hammock.
Yes,
awesome.
True fan.
I am a noob fountain pen enthusiast from India and love you both. Your pencasts are among my most watched stuff. I cannot stress enough that listening to the two of you is like listening to old friends. Hence, I decided to support you in your company by ordering stuff directly from your site. I sincerely hope that I get my order in one piece, as I ordered a lot of expensive stuff from my perspective. Mm-hmm. But keeping my fingers crossed and hoping for the best. Love to you both. I wish you a lot of happiness and peace in the coming years. Keep shining and bringing a smile to all of us. Thank you, Tanway. That was marvelous.
Thank you.
We know that we do have some listeners and watchers on YouTube from India, so I thought this would be a good opportunity just to say hello and thank you. And we realized that it is not super easy to order from a U.S. retail location and get
very
things
expensive to order from India.
So when it does happen, please know that it is noticed and appreciated. We don't expect you to do it every time for sure, but when you do, that does mean a lot. And I really appreciate Tanway going out of their way to do that for us and sending the kind words. It is awesome to hear.
Yeah.
And then Mr. Cat 3493 says, in reference to the Pilot Vanishing Point LS, which we spotlighted last week, I've heard that LS stands for luxury silent. And now that they mentioned that does kind of sound familiar. Yeah. I think we just didn't bother to look it up.
I think we were maybe told that at some point, but it's never been in like any of their marketing material or anything.
At least that is what David of Fig Boot on Pens has said anyway.
I mean, that dude knows some stuff about some pens.
David's a smart fellow.
Credible source.
I have a standard VP, and it's so satisfying to use.
Oh, yeah.
And there were other people that mentioned luxury silent is the thing. So apparently that is a thing, and we just forgot about it.
Seems very fitting.
It does sound familiar, though. I think we knew it at one point and forgot about it.
That's on par,
Yeah.
on brand for us.
Mm-hmm.
I got some feedback. One is from the Alt0001. Simple comment, listening to your Pencast just makes me feel good. All the best in 2023.
How delightful is that?
What more can you ask?
Even a simple little bit of joy and gratitude thrown out there into the internet is awesome. And when you choose to take even a short amount of time to do it, I think you're making the world a better place. I do. I seriously do.
Appreciate it. Well, it feels good us knowing that we're
Well, of course, there's
making you feel
that
good.
too.
Yeah. Adam Filius says, Brian, there is a Rockler opening in Short Pump soon. So Short Pump is like the northwestern side of Richmond.
Mm-hmm.
I looked it up. Yeah, sure enough. There is one coming. I don't know exactly when.
And this was the wood store.
This is the woodworking store that I talked about
previously
visiting.
is only in Northern Virginia.
There was a new one where my in-laws live. So that was like something, going to visit my in-laws is exciting enough. But just a little added bonus of when I go up there is I get to go to the Rockler store. But now there's going to be one in town here. So that is pretty exciting. So we'll definitely have to check that out.
All the Purple Hearts.
Yes, indeed. So that is exciting. I was not aware of that. So Adam, you empowered me through education. All right. And then Johnny Montalvo, 5620, says, Brian, you've clearly read a lot of books on business. Have you considered writing one yourself? I think you have a great angle that you could write from, especially considering how an online YouTube presence is crucial these days. And you really pioneered that in the fountain pen community. That's a good question. I have thought about writing a book. There's a couple of different books.
Somehow I Manage.
Somehow I Manage comes to mind, just like Michael Scott. No, I personally have benefited from hearing more of like the story of other people as they've started their businesses and that kind of stuff, more so than the like prepackaged like 5 levels of being an awesome business owner.
The very buzzworthy, buzzwordy stuff.
That sells books.
Yeah.
But usually the ones for me that are the most impactful are just like the nuggets of stories from people,
More experiential.
Yeah, but that's just my personal style.
Yeah.
I don't think that that's necessarily most people, but anyway.
Yeah, we got a lot of really good comments about the leadership philosophy discussion that we had last week. A lot of people really honed in on that.
Good. Yeah, that's definitely like something I spend way more time thinking about and focusing on than you all would ever see, because it's a lot that's behind the scenes.
There were definitely a couple people that heard you mention that you kind of blame yourself for everything, and they're like, oh my God, my boss would never think of doing that.
Oh, it's not a popular way to go about it. Yeah, no, there's definitely like psychological like warfare that goes on in your own head when it comes to like that mirror in the window thing that we were talking about. And most people are just like, no, I'm not going there. It's everybody else's problem. And you see that at large with things like the media and politics and almost everywhere in the world. So nothing that uncommon. Anyway, I don't know. Part of in practicality, yeah, sure. I have thought about it. It's going to take a tremendous amount of time that I've never felt like I've had to devote to
There is that.
And then, basically like to sell a book, you also have to like promote it and do other things along with it. So not only do you have to write the book, but then after you write the book, you have to take, probably at least a year to then do a whole bunch of extra stuff. So it's basically like starting a second business.
Oh.
And I could definitely see doing it at some point in my life. Maybe when my kids are grown and I'm like have more free time, I could see doing that.
By then you will have forgotten everything.
There's a good chance. But assuming I haven't, we got thousands of hours of videos to go back and reference, so I can at least go back and watch that. I'd be kind of open to it, but in the meantime, we'll just keep talking about it and give it to you for free. So there you go. But and then the whole YouTube thing, that's a whole other angle, because we've been doing YouTube since early 2010, so it's like going on 13 years now. Mm-hmm. In fact, the first video we posted was January 10th, 2010. And I remember that because it was right before my son was born, which was like the worst time to possibly start doing something like that, or the best time. Anyway, it's never too late for now. 30 Rock, deep cut. Okay. Robin Allen, 3767, says, when Brian starts forging, it will be time for additional videos of all the wood and metal work. Yes. Oh, and then Amanda Luzon says, wrought on can be the new sticker. That's
why I put it on there for you. I figured you'd appreciate that.
That's a solid pun.
Yeah.
I dig that. Believe it or not, I absolutely have thought about doing a YouTube channel around woodworking, but it falls in the same vein as the book thing. I'm like, I personally would be interested and enjoy doing that, but it's going to take more time and all that than I would possibly be able to devote. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe in the future, who knows? I could see doing something once I'm bored. When I'm bored, I have a list of about 100 different projects.
When you're bored, I'm going to start to seriously worry. I've never seen a bored Brian.
It never happens. It never happens. Anyway, that's all the feedback we got. Let's talk about some new stuff. All right, new stuff. It's definitely, the well is drying up on the new stuff front. We've got a few things to talk about. Beginning of the year is always, a less active time. Yeah, less active time for new stuff just because everybody has holidays and there's always a big push to get things out before the holidays. So then we usually, unless a lot of things get seriously delayed, and then January ends up being pretty busy, but I don't know. So
yeah, we've had those before where January has been even bigger than December sometimes.
Yeah, but it's almost never planned for January to be super busy. But so we'll see how it goes over the next couple of weeks. We do have a few things to mention. One is that we have the Benu Euphoria. So this is their New Year's. They've done this for 4 or 5 years now, maybe something like that.
Sounds about right.
So they do a New Year's pen every year. They have 500 pieces of this. It's a limited edition. They number them. This one is green. It looks very New Year's-y, very sparkly and exciting. It's like green with like gold and silver stars. It's got glitter. It's got
kind of reminds me of the first one that they did. I think that was a
hexagon.
They
did like a green and silver one. Yeah. A hexagon. Was that their first one?
That was the first one I remember.
Okay. I think that might have been the first one. I think they only did like 100 of those though. So they are doing more. But anyway, Benu Euphoria. It's $165 for the pen. There were 500 pieces total. These usually they stick around usually for like a couple of weeks for us and then they're gone. So I know we still have some, but we don't have like all that many. So if it is something you're interested in, go check it out. And if it's all sold out by the time this publishes, because we're recording this on Tuesday, it publishes Friday. I apologize. I'm sorry, but somebody else may still have it. Go get it. Anyway, the other pen that I have, the Visconti Kaleido, which is a newish model of pen. Mm-hmm. It came out in the other color. Unicorn, yes. So it was like a bluey purpley kind of color.
Very lovely.
This is a Brooks material color.
Jonathan Brooks.
Fire Opal, that is now out.
That is now out.
It was supposed to launch with the Unicorn, got delayed. But it's like an orangey, reddy, yellowy kind of color, and it looks pretty awesome. It's again kind of in that same vein of like the translucent swirly resin kind of thing, like the Unicorn.
Translucent, though, definitely not a demonstrator by any stretch.
No, it's like, I don't know. If
you might be able to see the piston moving up and down a little bit, but it might have little pockets of clearness, but it's really cool. All of them are going to be unique.
Yeah. Like you can tell the ink level it's in it, but you probably can't tell like what color ink.
It's going to be those like hold it up to the light sort of deals, I think.
Yeah. So it's the translucency is more to get the depth of material and stuff like that than it is to like show all the inside parts of the pen and whatnot. So you'll see some of that. It's maybe like, I don't know, if I had to just throw a ballpark number, it's like 70% opacity, 30% transparency. If it was a slider in Photoshop, it'd be like a little heavier on the opacity side. But anyway, so we've got that in stock now. You can go check that out. Drew, what you got?
Well, we also launched some new Conklin All-American fountain pens, Brian.
Okay. I'm going to eat my fruity marshmallow while you...
you enjoy that mystery thing. You're not really sure what it is.
I don't know what fruit it is.
It looks like an apple. It looks like a dried apple to me.
It might be apple. But I'm also eating apple, so I'm like...
Yeah.
Am I still tasting apple? Because like...
Your mouth would be the one to trust here.
I don't know.
Anyway, Conklin All-American in matte black. So it is a very simple matte black acrylic All-American fountain pen in 2 trims, rose gold and gunmetal. And it is the classic All-American shape that you could expect. It's a larger body pen, very smooth. The transition from cap to body when closed is very, very smooth.
This is a comfortable like daily writer because it's large but not heavy.
Right.
Not a lot of pens that fit.
And it's just black matte. So if you didn't want anything crazy, I don't know, like say abalone or rainbow, then this might be a breath of fresh air to you.
There's quite a spectrum on the color range.
It is. Conklin decided, you know what? Maybe somebody doesn't want extravagance. This would be the pen for them.
I don't know why you wouldn't. I mean, especially on that big pen, it's like...
It is a good canvas.
Whatever you put on there is going to be loud.
Yeah, it is a good canvas for some opulence. But in this case, it's just somebody, if you like the model itself... There we go. Black matte.
Canvas for Opulence.
There we go.
It's a good band name.
Oh, yeah. And then we're getting in a new ink. This should be out the day this Pencast publishes on January 6th, we're launching Ferris Wheel Press's new ink, Lapis Lullabies.
Ooh, yes.
And if it wasn't just the most Ferris Wheel Press name, then I don't know what is.
I feel like this is what I was always sung to as a kid, was Lapis Lullabies.
Ferris
That's why I
Wheel
love blues
Press,
so much.
I wonder if we could create names from non-existent inks and have the other person guess what brand they belong to. Like, I feel like I could do a pretty good job making up some ink names that didn't exist that sounded like Ferris Wheel Press.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying.
And then, like, I feel like Colorverse would be too easy because you just pick some space stuff.
Space things, yeah.
But Noodlers would be pretty challenging because they've got their own.
There's a lot of like nature stuff.
Yeah, and if you mention
trees.
any history, that'd be a Noodlers ink.
Mm-hmm.
Bomb
would be pretty easy too.
That would be pretty
easy. Because it's in French.
Yeah. But Ferris Wheel Press definitely has a vibe, and this is just very much. I believe this is a part of their Fairy Tales collection. Either way, it's very pretty. So, it's a sparkly blue. I got to do the writing samples on this one. It's a really, really attractive ink and a lot of fun to use. So definitely at least check out the pictures because
Ferris Wheel Press is on it, man.
They're fun. Yeah,
they got all kinds of good stuff.
They're not stopping anytime soon.
Speaking of not stopping, we are going to stop the new stuff, but we're going to keep going into Q&A. All right, Drew.
Okay, Q&A.
You're going to ask the first one, right? Can I eat my apple slice while you're asking the question?
Okay. Yes. This is from Ink Stain Adventure. And Ink Stain Adventure asks, do you find that over time you have gravitated to larger nibs? Say from extra fine to a medium?
So like nib size, not like number 5 to number 6.
Yes.
Like the physical size.
They're giving us an example there of the tipping size.
So this is interesting because I believe that this is probably the path that most people take. Because I think, most of we look up, which nib sizes are popular and all that across different brands and all that. And while we don't have specific like demographic information of like who's new into fountain pens.
Well, we know it's not broad.
We know anecdotally just from comments and talking to a ton of people, most people are not diving into fountain pens with like broads and stubs. Most people are starting out with extra fines and fines, maybe mediums, but especially if they're US based, most of our paper here is not great. It's mostly more absorbent paper, especially if you're in an office setting. Most of your paper is going to be like inkjet printer paper, which is more absorbent on purpose because inkjet printer ink needs to dry quickly. But if you use like laser toner paper, that's better fountain pen friendly stuff. Just little hack there.
Yeah.
But I think in other parts of the world, paper quality is probably a little bit better. That's a blanket assumption, but maybe better, and it may be more common to have things like mediums. In fact, usually this is something for like the last decade at least. We have been telling our manufacturers that are overseas, like if they're going to bring like one nib size of a pen, like sometimes they'll bring over one nib size just to start a new pen, or they just don't make a lot of different ones. Medium is like the default. You know what I mean? Or it has been for a long time. So it's like, oh, there's one pen. Like a good example would be like the Pilot Metropolitan. It was like medium was like the default. And we were like, no, we need finer nibs. Like the finer, the better. Because we just don't have great paper here. So
now, when will we get an extra fine Metropolitan?
Oh, I've been asking them for a very long time. Very long time.
You'd think they would have done that by now.
Yeah, I know.
Man.
I don't know what to tell you. But anyway, so I think it's very normal, especially in the US, to start with finer nibs. And then I think there's two factors that make the nib broadening occur more naturally, like organically.
Like the broadening preference?
The broadening preference, yeah.
Okay.
I think it has to do with a desire to get a broader ink experience, getting outside of, just ink color choices that you've used before, blues and blacks, like work safe inks, those you can use in pretty much
a broader variety.
Yeah, like as you get into some of like the new like Lapis Lullabies, you can put that in an extra fine, but it's kind of look like most other blues.
Yeah.
But you put that thing in a broad stub, flex, whatever, more of the unique characteristics of that ink are going to come out. The more ink you put down on the page, the bigger your nib, the more interesting stuff you got going on with it. So I think that those who really get into different types of ink over time, the broader nibs tend to show that off better. And then I think paper as well. I think, especially people getting new into fountain pens, you think about fountain pens being like the pen, like it's all about the pen. But then it's also like, well, no, not necessarily. I mean, like the ink too is like a huge opportunity to expand your fountain pen experience, right? And then the paper is like a distant third afterthought. I think of it kind of like if you're like driving a car, if like you're like just whatever, driving from point A to point B, you don't really care, you get whatever car and you don't really think about it. But if you like really get into like the experience of driving, you want very specific type of car, and then you care about other things like your fuel and your other like additives, like, various parts of the car, that's more like ink for fountain pens, right? But then if you're like into like performance driving, you're going to drive it on a track, right? So it's like fountain pen, yeah, you can use it on any type of paper.
Right.
Sure. But to really get like the full experience, you want to buy paper that's specifically like fountain pen friendly.
You got to go to the track.
Then that's like the track. So I don't know, that's the metaphor that kind of came to mind. So me personally, I had it kind of almost backwards because of just the way we started this business. Because I really got into the fountain pen thing kind of through the ink and the paper because of how we started this business. So I already had like nice fountain pen ink and paper at my disposal. And then I sort of like got more into pens kind of like secondarily.
Right.
So I actually leaned towards stubs and broads and like those wetter writing, pens. I got into that first.
I remember those original, like when you had that medium custom 74, and then those Schaefers you had were
I
like
had a bunch of. I was all into like broad.
Dude,
Schaefers.
those things were fire hoses.
Oh, they were, and I was into the Pelican script. With like the stub
those were all big
nibs.
stubs. Yeah.
Yep, LAMY Joy and all that type of stuff.
Dang, yeah,
I was really
yeah.
into the broader because I was like, oh yeah, the ink, like that was the thing that made fountain pens seem so much different to me.
Yeah, that's valid.
And I also had like no money for pens, so it was like ink and paper, very inexpensive way to like get a lot of different fun and interesting things happening in your fountain pen experience with not as much of an investment as it is if you're into a whole bunch of different pens. And I'm still advocate for that, but I don't think that's necessarily the typical way that most people like expand into their fountain pen collection. But I mean, it's different for everybody, but that was my experience. And then I think over time, I learned that is maybe not the most typical way that people get into it, because most people, I think honestly, most people don't have access to as much good paper, and that honestly drives so much of the experience there. So
you would have your taste gravitated in either direction?
I mean,
or has it stayed pretty much mediums, broads, and stubs?
I mean, my taste is kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
I really don't hate any one particular nib size.
Yeah.
And part of it is like, we're in the business too.
Yeah.
So it's like,
We kind of have to learn to love them all.
It's advantageous to us to have a breadth of experience. We certainly have our preferences. I would say that like in general, my natural preference to use like broads and stubs everywhere has waned a little bit as my experiences come along.
Just for practicality's sake?
Yeah, mainly for practicality, especially because like 13 years ago when we started this, dot grid paper was really not available, but I loved dot paper.
Yeah.
Honestly, if they made like a 7mm dot, that would probably be my favorite, because that's like the college ruling. It would be enough to accommodate broads and finer stubs, but I would still get the benefit of the dots. I don't love having a 5mm ruling. I just want the dots.
Yeah.
So literally I've never really thought about it that much before, but I'm like, maybe I should like make some 7mm dots.
Yeah.
Is that anything? I've never really like thought
I'm
about
sure
it
you
much
could
before.
do that.
Is that something that would be interested? Because it's like,
does anybody want bigger grids?
Because the dot paper was meant as like a more subtle replacement for graph paper, basically. Graph paper has always been 5mm, and so they did the dot thing because it's more subtle than there's the graph with all the hard lines. I love the dot, but dots do restrict, like the 5mm does restrict your broads and stubs. So that honestly is probably shaped more of my preferences, just the tightness of the ruling.
I think you just discovered a next great product.
This is why I like doing this Pencast,
there we
because
go.
it like forces me to think about things. I'm like, what if we did a 7mm dot? I don't know. It's possible.
Let's blail that trays.
Or is there a 7mm dot anywhere? I don't think I've ever seen one available anywhere. I'll say like, we haven't done a lot of custom notebook stuff because you have the quantities you have to get custom notebook stuff is crazy. So I don't even know like how practical that would be for us, but if there is interest, please comment, because I'd be very curious to know if a 7mm dot either is around and I could like try some, or if there would be like some serious interest in this.
There you go.
But there's a lot of times where we have preferences and we're like, oh my gosh, this would be the best thing ever. And then it turns out like, nope, we just have weird preferences. Like nobody really actually wants this.
I would write on that. I like that.
You would write some 7mm dot? Yeah? Would you hop on the 7mm dot?
I'm on board.
All right.
I just try to be funny and say, let's trail that blaze instead of blaze that trail. But instead I said, let's blail that trays. So like even in my attempt to be funny and do it backwards, I actually ended up screwing it up and just making it complete garbage.
I didn't even hear it.
I'm mental. Yeah. Anyway, for me, at some point, I feel like all the nib sizes have been my favorite because I'm just super, wishy-washy about that.
Whatever you're using at the moment is
pretty much. So at some point, I'm like, oh yeah, broads are my favorite. Oh yeah, 1.1s. Oh yeah, extra fines.
You're definitely like leaning towards your extra fines.
I've moved forward. I've moved toward extra fines for sure.
It's been that way for a while, I think.
Yeah, well, with extra fines, I found that in writing with extra fines, I'm more tolerant to pens with inconsistent.
Tolerable, I think, is the right word to use there. Yeah.
No, I'm the same tolerable. I don't get any more tolerable. I can tolerate pens that have finicky feeds a little bit more because with extra fine nibs, I write smaller. And when you're writing smaller, you're less demanding on flow. Yeah. Just because you're writing smaller, you're not doing big sweeps. Like that's usually when you see breaks in flow. Yeah. And also when you write with a non-extra fine, something above, you are pulling more ink down from the chamber onto the paper. So they're less demanding in that way as well. So I just overall have found that extra fines just give me less problems. If the pen has a feed that's just like not quite up to task or it's got a funky ink, extra fines just seem to cause me the fewest issues. I love it when, a lot of ink comes out reliably and consistently and doesn't have baby's bottom. But I just think that once you go up there, you get a host of other issues that you have to consider. But extra fine is usually pretty stock. And I also really respect extra fines when an extra fine is done well.
Oh, just because you know what it takes to make it? Yeah.
Exactly. So, I would say extra fines are probably my go-to, but I've been all over the place. I might say something different next week.
Fair enough. Okay. Well, we'd love to know what y'all's preferences are, too.
And about those 7mm dots.
Yeah. Are you on board for that? All right. I got a question for you, Drew, from Lexi Lou. Do you switch up the inks in all of your pens or keep the same ink in one or more? So are you more of a serial ink changer or keep it constant or a blend?
I'm mostly a changer, but I do have certain pens that I avoid certain inks in. So if it is like I have right now.
It's not like every ink is fair game in every pen.
No, every ink is not fair game in every pen. I have this old Visconti vacuum filler here. This will not see any sort of high maintenance ink because I cannot take it apart. Right. So this is strictly for inks that I know I can clean out easily. This one I think has now
the desert sands. Is that
no, this one does have polar blue in it, so it is sheeny, but it's not that bad. So I know I can clean polar blue out of there, but I would not put anything shimmery in there. So it really just depends on what I'm putting down on paper and how well I can clean it. Something like the 823 is kind of the same way. I can clean this one out a little bit better. So
you can see what's going on.
And you can see it, exactly. Yeah. This is an opaque internal filler. Like I'm not going to risk not being able to get that cleaned out. So this I'll go a little bit more demanding, but not by much. And then if it's a cartridge converter pen, like a Sailor Pro Gear Slim, I can take that thing completely
fair
apart.
Game.
So yeah, that's pretty fair game.
Do whatever.
You can get the feed out easily. Like you can get the feeds out in a Visconti, but they're kind of annoying and a little precarious to get out. So, getting that toothbrush in there, you're only going to be able to get what's exposed. So it comes down to cleaning for me.
You got to stay on it with the maintenance a little more with those certain filling mechanisms.
Yeah, so that's generally my limiting factor. And of course, if it is an ink like chromo shading ink like what Sailor has, I will want to put those in a pen that just happens to have a larger nib because I want to see that shading. Putting something like haha in a Japanese extra fine is kind of pointless.
You almost can't even read what you wrote.
It's very light and you don't get any shading, so you're just getting the worst of both worlds.
Pretty much.
So yeah,
maintenance is still pretty easy though.
Maintenance is very easy, yeah. So I'll do that, and then let's see. I do occasionally dedicate a pen to an obnoxious ink like nitrogen or base state. Yeah. I have had, I think, I've probably over the last 10 years had about 5 Bay State Blue preppies. And once they start looking unhappy or they dry out or I forget to do something, I just throw them away. Generally, they came from like an old Noodler's bottle that had a free preppy in there.
Yeah.
So I've done that before. And then also I've done a couple of preppies with nitrogen in them as well. And I treat those the same too. That's still easier to clean out. But both of them are good, ink, like good pens to dedicate an ink exclusive to. So I've done that as well. But that's pretty much it. That's generally how much I limit it. Of course, there's also the consideration of pen color to ink color. So I will.
Yeah, is that a factor for you? Because
sometimes
you will tend to kind of like to match your stuff, right?
I like it to be there just to help me make a decision, but I'm not like, oh, I can't put a red in this pen.
So if you had, because you pretty much do like a 3-pen like limitation for yourself.
Like I put a blue in this because there's some blue in here, but if I really wanted to write with a yellow, I wouldn't be like, oh no, I can't. Like, I would try not to.
So it's like a preference, but not a limitation.
Right, because I need help making decisions. So it helps me. But no, it's definitely not a hard and fast, like, oh gosh, I wish I could use this yellow ink, but I don't have a yellow pen. Like, oh, that's fine. I'll put it in something.
Yeah, okay. That's fair enough.
But I do have a brown in this and a green in this. So right now, yes, everything is color coordinated right now.
Do you find that helps you just like remember the ink color? Or
Absolutely.
So it's like more of an assisted memory kind of thing.
Yes. Otherwise, I would have no idea. I know what 3 inks I have inked up because I write them down, but I wouldn't know what's in what unless I pulled them out and wrote with them. Yeah. So it helps.
I mean, once you write with the ink on the page, you would see what color the ink is, right?
Yeah.
But it's more like when you're going to pick up the pen, like knowing what you're going to get kind of a thing.
Exactly.
I see.
Yeah.
Sort of like if you have a box of chocolates and you have a bunch of dark ones, you're like, well, I know that's dark chocolate.
Yes.
Or if it's like brown,
there we go.
I know that's milk chocolate.
Chocolate language.
Yeah.
There we go.
I think of everything in the ways of chocolate, clearly. I'm obviously very hungry and very thirsty in this Pencast. I am working through it. I finished my smoothie.
What about you? You mix it up?
That all makes sense to me, what you said. I would say I'm somewhat similar, even though you and I have different cleaning habits, meaning that you have them and I don't.
It's a lot easier with just 3.
Yeah, for sure. For me, it really depends on the pen. I certainly have certain pens, very much like Drew, based on their maintenance and other things like their opaqueness and stuff like that. If I have a pen that is not as easy to take apart, not as easy to clean out thoroughly. So for me, that's the big difference. Is it easy to clean thoroughly? Yeah. Because chances are I'm not going to clean it for a while. And I need to like deep clean it.
Yeah.
If it's not easy to deep clean, then I'm not going to put a heavy maintenance ink in that pen. Yeah. Or I may not use the pen much at all.
Yeah. Because you know yourself at this point. You're like,
I'm pretty self-aware.
One of these days, this thing's going to get gunky. It's like, do I want to have to clean this?
I will say, though, right now I'm in pretty good shape. I'm very proud of myself. I have gone through recently, I have maybe, this is a low for me right now. I have maybe a dozen pens that need to be cleaned. Maybe a dozen pens. Yeah, it's not bad.
Almost a single digits.
Yes. That's about as good as it gets for me.
Wow.
And then I recently went through and cataloged because I keep a spreadsheet with all my pens. Mm-hmm. I recently cataloged everything I've gotten since COVID. I had been basically behind for like 3 years.
Are all your pens in the same room now?
They're all, I mean, I have a few pens like in my backpack and maybe a couple random ones, but basically every pen that I'm like catalog, like myself keeping like historically catalog, whatever, it's all
well done
in the spreadsheet. They're all back in my office. They need to be put into my pen case, which there's quite a bit to put in there. And I may need to rearrange some of the drawers because now certain brands are going to like spill over and I got to change the labels and stuff like that. So I'm not totally done with the project, but I mean, yeah, Sailor is like its own drawer now at this point. But I basically hadn't like tackled that since COVID. And it was a bit of a project. It took many hours to kind of do all that. But, it was just one of those things. It was like pebbles in the backpack. It was just one extra thing. So now I'm cleaning that up. But so now I'm in much better shape. But going back to the actual question here, kind of like Drew, if I have certain pens that are very high ink capacity or harder to clean or whatever, I'm not going to change those as drastically. Or I might change colors, but I'll stay within a similar color family so that I can do a flush and cleaning, but not have to like deep clean, you
I like
know,
that.
like it's really annoying when you have something like a vacuum filling pen with a lot of just crevices in there where ink can hang out, and you go from like a dark blue to a lighter yellow or something. It's like any ink that's left in that pen can linger. I don't even care as much about the aesthetics, honestly. Like if it's a demonstrator pen, it's got a lot of nooks and crannies, I can let a little bit of ink hanging in a place. I can let that go because I'm just gonna ink it up again. You know, I don't care about that quite as much. I'm much more, retentive when it comes to cleaning and storing a pen. I want to get that thing like spick and span.
Absolutely.
But if I'm going to be inking it back up with something, I don't even get so crucial about like getting every single little bit out of there. But if it's in the same color family, then I can just basically like kind of flush, give it a 30 seconds to a minute, and then I can go and ink it back up with something else and be on my merry way. That to me is easier. But if it's a super involved thing, I'm less inclined to do that. But then, like you said, cartridge converter pens are my absolute favorites for just like, we have a bunch of new inks or something and I want to test them out, or we're shooting a video where we're writing with a whole bunch of different things. I'm like, give me a bunch of Safaris or something. And I'm just going to do that. I can swap the nibs out on them. I can do all that, and then I can just blast it with a bulb syringe and be done with it. That's pretty much it. I guess I don't have that much to add. I could say a lot more words, but it won't be much different than what you said. So we'll move it along.
Okay. Next up, question number 3 this week from Einzelkampf.
Okay.
What are some other fountain pen friendly papers apart from Rhodia, Tomoe River paper, I'm guessing,
TRP, yeah,
and Clairefontaine?
So these 3 brands have consistently pretty much been the tops for me.
Yeah.
Like that's an easy recommend for anybody new to fountain pens. Rhodia, Clairefontaine especially. Tomoe River is like, that's a little bit more of a specialty kind of a thing.
A popular specialty kind of
Very,
thing.
very popular, but they don't have as many formats, and they have some like they're across different brands. For me, like Rhodia, Clairefontaine, easy thing. I mean, literally that was the first brand. Those were the first brands we carried, and they have been consistent for 13 years.
Crazy.
And they go back. I mean, I think Rhodia was like from 1937, and Clairefontaine's even older. So like they're very stable. They ain't going anywhere. So that I feel really good about. Other brands, it's kind of all over the place. So I'm not going to say I did a deep dive on this one, but I was somewhat thorough.
Did you write down every brand?
I did. Just quick. I'm going to do a quick hit on every brand.
Quick hit on every brand.
So it's not a deep dive. It's more of a wide dive, like a belly flop. I'm not going deep, but I'm covering a lot of surface area.
That's apt.
Is that an appropriate metaphor?
Yeah.
Okay, so a blanket statement, we try to only carry papers that are like minimally acceptable as fountain pen friendly papers.
Yeah.
There's a lot of brands. I mean, I have like several bookshelves filled in my office with samples of things. It's like, I really like the format. This is really interesting, but the paper is just not up to par.
No.
Mostly it's too absorbent. The bleed through, the feathering is too bad, that kind of a thing. Most of the paper that we get is like, it's even advertised as like fountain pen friendly or whatever. And you're like, well, it's thick paper.
What is it though?
But it feathers like a freaking caterpillar,
Wait.
What?
Oh, like a big hairy line.
It looks like a big hairy caterpillar when you write on it.
I was thinking like not looking like a caterpillar, but like
as I said it, I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Caterpillars don't have feathers.
Feathers like a toucan.
Yeah, there you go.
No, it looks like a caterpillar for sure.
Yeah. So that said, there's an element of curation that we have on our site for sure, because we do not carry anything on our site that we have not tested for fountain pens specifically. And that is too much of the frustration of many of our potential brands that we carry, because they know that we have to kind of beat that standard. That said, what's on our site is not exclusive, meaning like we carry every fountain pen friendly paper. There's probably other fountain pen friendly things out there that we don't carry. And
especially
it's also,
small batch stuff.
Yeah. So, and there you go. So quick rundown. So this is of all the brands that we carry. So if you go on our site, all the brands that we carry that are not Rhodia, Tomoe River, and Clairefontaine. So I'm just going to hit each one super quick. Okay. Apica and Apica Premium. I would say this one's kind of on par with Rhodia in many ways. There's a lot of different formats and bindings and stuff to explore. I would call it more of an underrated brand. But in terms of like its quality, it's probably near Rhodia, maybe slightly below. Is that fair? You got a face. I don't think you're
the premium stuff. Yes.
The premium. Yeah. Maybe I'm thinking a little more.
The non-premium stuff, I would say, is more on par with like I would put that below.
Maybe a notch below.
I would put that below Leuchtturm personally.
Okay. Really? Okay. Maybe I haven't used the regular.
The regular
Apica
stuff,
recently
yeah.
enough.
The premium stuff is nice though.
Okay, so Apica Premium is more on par. Regular Apica, maybe not as great.
It's
Still
down
decent.
there.
but
It's affordable.
Not the best. It is more affordable. Yeah. So there's that. Color ring. It's a very specific use. It's more for like swabbing and stuff. It's more like cardstock, but it's very good quality. So that absolutely is great. Endless. So they have their Regalia. It's their proprietary paper. Very good. They're nice format notebook. They don't have a lot of products. We really just have the Endless notebook.
They used to have Tomoe River in there, didn't they?
They used to.
So
and then there was some like, there was a whole supply confusion.
Yeah, we're
thing.
still figuring that out. But their Regalia paper is supposed to be just as good, and I've tested it, and it's
I found it to be pretty comparable.
Yeah, very comparable.
Yeah, so
it's really nice paper.
It used to be Tomoe River, so I would call it more closer to what Tomoe River is. But they have their different formats. The Creative Block, which is like a notepad, that thing is pretty interesting, and that's kind of a more unique product. So I would say that writing quality is kind of right in there. We have Exacompta, which I think at this point is just index cards. They're relatively fountain pen friendly index cards, but we've carried them from the beginning.
I keep forgetting we have those.
I know we always do, but it's like, well, we have like a reorder point list of like products that like, if something doesn't sell really well, we have a report that it pulls up and it's like, yeah, this thing is like probably not something we either need to like give it some new life or we just maybe don't need to carry it anymore. And Exacompta, it's like, I think the index cards are like the only thing we carry at this point. But anyway, it's under the Clairefontaine family of brands.
Wow.
Field notes. So field notes to me is like,
do we have any field notes?
It's like the minimal acceptable. We've carried field notes for over a decade, and we've really always kind of carried them for the like quarterly releases. And so we have carried them for a long time, and the form factor, the design of them is nice. But
so much fun.
But they're not designed for fountain pens.
They're not fountain pen friendly.
They've barely met the minimal acceptable fountain pen friendliness.
Of all the paper that I could say, really, we could answer this question by saying all of them. Like if you say, what are some other fountain pen friendly papers? We're not going to carry something that's not fountain pen friendly.
Unacceptable.
Except
field notes.
Field notes. That's the one thing that's stopping me from saying all of our papers, extremely fountain pen friendly.
I won't say it can't be fountain pen friendly because some
inks in an extra fine can write.
That's the brand above all others that we're like, well, you got to make compromises.
Yeah.
And that's generally been something people have been understanding in the past, and it honestly has not been as popular for us recently. So it's not as big of a brand. So I wouldn't really worry about it unless you're just really into the Field Notes brand. Gilalo. So this is one that we've also carried this for 13 years. This is really just a correspondence paper. So certain brands like Gilalo, Crown Mill, they're really, meant more as, they either have like cards or tablets with envelopes that are meant to be like mailed
stationary
correspondence.
Sets.
Yeah. Gilalo falls in that category. The paper is fantastic. It's laid paper. So it's very textured, has very specific texture with a watermark and everything. Obviously very high quality. Personally, I don't like writing on it because the texture is just not very enjoyable to me. But in terms of the presentation, like as I'm writing something for someone else, or I'm writing a thank you note or something I'm mailing, that's one of the ones I will go to first because it presents the best.
Yeah.
But in terms of my enjoyment of like the writing experience, it's like towards the bottom.
You kind of have to go slow.
You got to slow down because it's like bumpy. There's like literally like ridges on it.
And using an extra fine is unpleasant.
It is not the most pleasant writing experience, but it looks beautiful, and that's the point. Yep. So that's really good paper for that. We have Goulet notebooks, which use Tomoe River paper. So I won't talk about those very much. And some of them are fit to size to fit in the Travelers notebooks. Some of them are not. We have a blend. So it's Tomoe. Itoya, we have had a couple of their notebooks. We only have one of theirs at the moment. It kind of falls in the middle of the pack. Not sure where this brand is going to go with us. It's a relatively newer thing, so we'll see what Itoya does. Itoya is our distributor for Sailor. So they have their own paper brand. We'll see what they do with it. Jacques Urban, they have some stationery. It's just like cards. It's only a couple of products, but they're good quality. They look really nice. They're pretty expensive, but they fall into that Gilalo kind of category. Leuchtturm 1917. So the form factor of these notebooks are awesome.
The colors are incredible.
Colors are really good. The paper, we all wish it would be just a little bit better.
Just a little bit.
it's good. I mean, I personally write with plenty of Leuchtturms. I don't have as many problems with it, especially because I pretty much exclusively use the dots, which makes me want to use finer nibs anyway.
You're not one of the people that uses both sides of the paper, though, are you?
I'll use both sides of the paper.
You will?
Yeah,
okay, because with Leuchtturm, for me, the main issue that I have is bleed through and ghosting.
I mean, I don't have an issue with ghosting at all, really. Maybe it's because I tend to use more saturated ink colors, so like I get more contrast anyway. And if I get a little bit of ghosting, it's more subtle anyway. If it's like bleeding through so much that you almost can't tell which, text you wrote from which side.
Right. No, it's not that bad.
It's not that bad.
No.
I've had other papers that I've used that it's been that bad. So maybe I'm making a compromise there that other people might not find as acceptable.
No, it is fountain pen friendly.
I would definitely call it fountain pen friendly. It's not the most fountain pen friendly. Right. I think they could get a more fountain pen friendly paper, and then it would be like the ultimate notebook.
Game changer, yeah.
But I think it's the format is so good. So that's a really good one. Marimon Nemesine, Nemesine, excuse me. I know you're a big fan of this brand. The paper quality is really good.
Yes.
They have a lot of very unique formats.
And sizes.
And things like that, bindings and stuff like that. I think some of it doesn't get a lot of attention because it's kind of offbeat. It's like, it's not stuff that people are as used to. So it doesn't necessarily get as much attention. Or some of like the line ruling they have is like super fine. So it's like great if you like really extra fine stuff. So it is very specific, but it's a very interesting brand. Very high quality.
Yeah. It
comes out of Japan. Paper is great. So I'm a big fan of it.
I think it's 80 gram. It's good stuff.
I think all their paper is the same in all their different notebooks, right? Like the quality of the paper, I think, is the same in all of them.
Yeah.
So take a look at their different products, and we try to take pictures of the rulings inside because even among the different sizes and stuff, they're very different. So that's a sleeper brand. I think it's an underrated brand.
Yeah. This one's one of my favorite ones. It can go in the back pocket, goes really well inside rickshaw.
There you go.
That's what I write my ink names on.
Nice. Oh, yeah, it's perfect for that.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving along alphabetically, Midori. I would call this like more of a middle of the road quality. There's some limited formats and stuff like that. It's nothing that crazy or exciting to talk about. So I don't really have much to say, but it's there. Nebula, this uses Tomoe River paper. So kind of falls into like the Goulet notebook thing. It's like if you like Tomoe, you're going to like that paper. So it comes down to more of the format and price and stuff. Original Crown Mill. So this is a correspondence type product. Again, very good quality, some slightly different stuff. They have some laid paper like Gilalo. They also have some pure cotton paper, which is definitely more absorbent than your typical paper, but it's got like a softer feel to it. I don't know how to describe it, but it's a very interesting feel in the hand. So that one you have to be a little pickier about the inks you use, but is very good. They only sell those in tablet form, and I think maybe in card form. But again, very, very heavy correspondence thing, but it's pretty nice. Then the last one alphabetically is Traveler's Company. So Travelers is known for the notebook. And it used to be Midori and Travelers was under the same brand. It used to be the Midori Travelers notebook. That's why Midori as a brand, there's like, oh yeah, they have a couple of notebooks, but I don't really even think about those much.
Well, I was going to say that there are a few people with the newer Midori books that we have carried, like the larger ones. Okay. We kind of brought that paper brand back a little bit. Some people are a huge fan. Adrian, our customer care manager, she
likes that format.
Loves it. Okay. Like she was a big proponent in us bringing back the brand. Tested them a lot. Absolutely in love with it. The larger notebook, I forget the model number, but it's a larger notebook with a very blank white cover. Mm-hmm. She's decorated the cover like crazy. It really, it's very much a blank slate notebook, but you can do a lot with it, especially if you're a daily user and a daily planner. There is a lot of potential for these brands. So it's still relatively new. I haven't had a ton of time to test it.
A5 Journal, the Codex? Is that
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah.
Big binding on that one too.
Mm-hmm. Midori MD, yeah.
Yeah, the MD.
Okay. Yeah, it doesn't look like much on the site because this is like a, rectangular tan.
Yeah, the pictures don't do it justice, but it's a fun notebook and it's really well made.
It's got like a naked binding, like you can see like the
stitching and everything. Yeah,
it is interesting.
It's fascinating. It's really high quality, though, really well made, and great for somebody who wants a blank slate.
Yeah, very cool. So there you go. But as terms of the Travelers, like the leather notebook cover,
they've got a lot of different paper in there.
I love that. Yeah, they have the paper in there is kind of all over the place. They have a light paper, they have a sketchbook paper, the planners have different paper, so it's hard to say like Like I think some of them are better than others.
The sketch paper is like really rigid.
It's
the
really
light
thick,
paper is
yeah.
like Tomoe River.
Yeah.
And then there's the craft paper, which is like writing on a paper bag.
Yeah, a little
crazy.
bit. So you get a wide experience there, but that's part of why we wanted to do our own notebooks that would fit that with the Tomoe River paper. So like that's actually my personal combo is I use a Traveler's like leather cover with our Goulet notebooks, and that's what's worked for me for years. So there you go. So that's about as much as I can possibly tell you about the paper because that's what I'm most familiar with. But curious if y'all have any other brands and stuff that you have gotten not from our site, because I honestly haven't tested. We've tested so many that have just let us down that I haven't sought it out as much personally because I'm just tired of being disappointed.
Yeah.
So if you do have some that you've used, let us know in the comments because we're always open to it, but you only can get let down so many times before you're like,
at this point,
tell me what paper is there out there that's that different? Than,
at this point, we do want different. We want something that's going to provide a unique writing experience for our customers. If it's going to be the same as something we already have, then
It's like, well,
But if it's something really actually experientially different, then heck yeah, bring it on.
Sure. Okay.
All right, number 4. Oh, you're saying
mine.
Yeah, bring it. Tell me.
I will tell you. All right, this is from Julie Cat, New York, or NY. I assume New York. What do you do with the empty boxes that the pens come in? Like storing them away?
I store them away in the special file cabinet for corporate, aka the garbage. Yeah. No, I don't. I really do trash most of my boxes.
Yeah.
I toss most of them. Yeah, unless it's something really sentimental or a box that
what would be sentimental about a pen box?
A gift. Yeah, okay. If it's a gift and it has a nice box, out of respect for the...
I don't think I've ever factored in whether something was a gift as to if I kept the box or not.
It's mostly guilt. Yeah, I don't want to, this person gave it to me and they kept the original box. Like, especially if it's something that has been around for
like not
years.
A new pen, but
right,
right.
And then like they went through the trouble to keep the box and they gave me the whole thing. Like, okay, well I'm not gonna they went through the trouble of keeping this box and gifted it to me. I'm not gonna be like, all right, well, I'd feel really bad. I'd be like, oh, cool, thank you so much. Throw one away and keep that. Like, I don't know. This weirds me out.
I mean,
maybe one day, maybe there has to be a statute of limitations where I can throw it away after like 5 years or something. And I won't feel bad.
Yeah, I guess it depends. Like, do you consider that as part of just like packaging? Like, is the product the pen?
Not always. If it's like a Safari, then no, heck no, whatever. Those are a dime a dozen.
Okay.
But if it's something that has like an LE card or something like that, and it's a type of package that they don't sell anymore. Like, how Visconti had those like old packages with a little drawer with the instruction. Like, if someone gave me one of those, like I would keep that. Like,
okay.
It's sentimental and it's point in time, I guess. I don't have one of those, but that's a scenario where I would probably keep the box.
Okay.
But no, unless the box is particularly cool or...
You're not just keeping it by default, though.
No, I have fewer than 10 boxes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I do keep some that are just fun. Like, I brought one of my recent favorites.
Oh,
this is my brown box.
Oh, okay.
This one, I would not get rid of this one because this one goes with...
It goes with your lime brown Safari.
This goes with...
This is definitely like a special thing, though.
I've got my little brown bear and my brown Safari, and I love them so much.
Oh, yeah.
And this was a gift from my friend Becky. And this one, like, look at that. Boom!
Brown.
I cannot say no to this. So this one's going to chill with me for perpetuity.
Yeah.
And then, of course, it's got like the little bear face on there. And then
if you ever end up gifting this to someone else, for sure, it can never be thrown
right out of my cold, dead hands. But look, it's got like a little bear pocket.
Yeah.
And it goes in.
Yeah.
It's a bear. I love it.
Nice.
So yeah, this is one that I would never part ways with.
Okay, I could see that. That makes sense.
Sentimental and limited in nature.
Yeah, I'm going to take over the question now because it feels like you're at a natural
Dunzo
conclusion. Okay. When I started out, I used to keep almost everything. I quickly realized that was unsustainable. So I have quite a few pens in my collection. And even in paring down which boxes I keep, it is still like a project to manage them. In fact, we have a like storage shelf up here where we keep our like spare like boxes, like cardboard boxes for shipping and all that. And I keep most of my extra pen boxes in like one of those 18-quart tubs.
So you've got a few.
And I have multitude of tubs. I'm not going to say double digits of tubs, but it's probably getting close to that. Like I filled up 2 more tubs just with the pens that I, even paring it down, just with the ones that I cataloged since COVID when I did that recent thing, which is like 3 years worth of pens. So it's a good number.
Where are
of
they
pens.
going to go?
I'm going to store them up in the
So
storage
what
area.
Julie Cat is asking specifically, like, what do you do like storing them away?
What do you do? Yeah, I store them away. I'm very rarely like going back and referencing the box. Like I might keep it nearby my desk if it's something special and we're talking about it in the Pencast and we're going to shoot a video or something like that.
Yeah.
But then I'll quickly kind of store it away. And
So
it's
if
not
this were your
everything.
home, like if you were Julie Cat, would this be in a a rubber tub up in the attic? Probably.
This is what's probably like in like a corner of my shed or something.
One of your 3, the nice shed.
Probably the nicer shed. Yeah. Though I don't know who knows where it would end up. I mean, it's hard for me to separate out where would I be storing this if I wasn't like who I am in the pen business, because it's impossible to separate myself out of what I am doing right now. But I would like to think that my inclination would be somewhat similar. I think I was more inclined to actually keep more of the boxes earlier on because I was like, well, I'm going to need this for like historical reference or whatever. And that's like a small factor now. So basically what my strategy is now, if I have duplicate boxes of things, I don't keep the duplicates. So there are times where it's interesting to see, especially like this is not something so much like for a Pencast or whatever, or like to show like publicly, but even internally. One of the photographers just sneezed. I don't know if you heard that. But I think that we have referenced old packaging and stuff, whether it's for like our warehouse folks or customer care or something like that, where it's like, oh yeah, remember like one notable box when the black matte Pilot Vanishing Point first came out.
Oh, yes.
It was like in this black border box.
Do you still have one of those?
I have it somewhere.
Oh.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure like that's a good example. If I had felt like going and crawling up into the place, I maybe would have talked about it here, but I didn't. So that's an example of like, that's a cool box they did. It was like, it basically was like a stretched plastic, and they put the pen in there. So when you close, like it was like a clamshell type thing. You closed it up. It looked like the pen was just floating in the box. It was so cool.
You can get smaller versions of that. Like I've seen, there's somebody out there that I think is a nib grinder that actually sells their nibs in miniature versions of those.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I wish I could remember who it was, but you can definitely get them. Like you can buy those
I
styles
mean,
of packages.
Totally something that can be done.
Yeah,
so
I haven't seen a big one in a while,
so
but
like that was cool. So like I wanted to keep one of those, right?
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure I did somewhere. So I try to keep that kind of stuff just for interesting historical purposes, but I'm not keeping it for every pen. Like me personally, I'm kind of like you. I'm like, well, I'm planning on keeping my pens.
Yeah, I don't plan to resell any of them. If I planned on reselling some of them, like I have my Conid bulk filler box. Like I'm not going to get rid of that. That's very special.
Sure.
And they're not around, but I'm not going to resell it. Like I don't plan on selling any of my pens. I sold a handful one time so I could get some money to get my Urushi work done on my 912.
Okay.
But other than that, no, they're sticking with me.
Do you feel like I don't spend a lot of time, and this is maybe something y'all in the comments can speak to more than we can, because we only sell new stuff. Do you know if something has a box versus doesn't have a box? Does that make like a really meaningful difference in terms of like its value in the secondhand market, or does it really depend on the type of pen and that kind of a thing? I can imagine where it would matter.
It probably depends on the type of
more
pen.
For some pens than
like,
others.
Again, like if it's like a Twisby or a LAMY, probably not so much.
Yeah, because I see like new old stock. Like I think something like new in the box that like hasn't been used before, being in the box speaks to its newness, or lack of being usedness. But I mean, like an old pen that's been used for years and years and years, if it still has the original box, I don't feel like I really see a lot of that making a big difference.
To me, it would influence me in knowing that maybe it was kept in the box. Maybe its use was lower. And it does speak to a little bit of the owner. Like if the owners kept the box after all these years, that says something about just their habits.
Yeah.
So I think there's some intangible benefits
Maybe
that
at like
you
a
could
certain price point it
read
matters.
into. Yeah.
Like if somebody had a Safari from 20 years ago and it was just not like a super special edition, but just like a Safari, if it had the box, would that really matter?
I think that's kind of a big deal. Like if
Yeah.
someone kept a box after 20 years, like that tells me that pen, if that that pen has no mileage or that person is a very cautious, intentional, careful collector.
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't think it would influence me personally in buying one.
Yeah. Okay.
But there's something to be said for that.
I mean, I think that I'm thinking about other things that I buy, not in the fountain pen world. I don't keep the boxes for anything because
You weren't one of those people that like got a bunch of
normally-
DVDs and put them in like a Case Logic binder, were you?
I didn't buy a lot of DVDs, but yeah, I was more inclined to do that.
What?
Sure. Yeah,
Oh no, I had the
maybe.
cases for everything. I had a
Those. So okay, DVDs I would keep all the cases or like video
Okay,
games or
okay.
something. Like
CDs.
CDs.
Did you put those in a case with the little?
Yeah, I would put those in a Case
yeah.
Logic type.
I never
thing.
had many. I didn't
It
have
depends.
enough to do that.
See, okay, that's actually a pretty good, like, somewhat comparable thing because it's a small enough object where you
CDs
can keep.
were cheaper, but DVDs weren't. So like you kept your DVDs, but not your CDs.
No, I kept all the cases for my CDs too. I think, if I'm not mistaken, we're going back a ways.
Yeah.
I haven't bought a CD in 20 some years, so even then I didn't buy a whole ton of them because I was totally buying royalty appropriate music in the late
Would Lars
90s
Ulrich
and
be mad at you?
2000s. I may or may not have anything to talk about that. No, but I think that's a pretty good thing for me to think about because I mean I buy like stuff for the house and tools and stuff like that. I'll usually hang on to the original packaging like for the return window period,
Right.
For if there's a problem. But then after that, I'm like, I got room to store this junk, and I'll get rid of the packaging.
What about those stupid like accessories that go into the corner mystery kitchen cabinet? Like if you had like a waffle iron or a sandwich press, you keep the boxes for those dumb things though, don't you?
No, heck no.
Really? I do.
What? Why?
Just because they store easily and they stack easily, and I never use them. So they're all in the like the griddle is still in its box, the waffle iron, the Mickey waffle iron is still in its box because those are like those are. I have one closet in the laundry room that has like my tool bag and the light bulbs and things like that.
Oh yeah,
And then there's a space below it that all that crap's just in, and it's all stacked.
interesting.
Because they don't get used very often, but keeping in the box makes it so I can stack them. If they weren't in the boxes, oh boy.
That thought has never crossed my mind.
Yeah, it's only
to keep the kitchen. I think it's because most of that stuff comes with like all these extra accessories and stuff.
Oh
and
yeah,
I'm
they're kind of just flopping around in the box.
I can't deal with having to put that back in the box every time
no.
I use it.
But
I would just look at that. I would look at the pantry or whatever and look in there and be like, I'm not digging out.
I would have
pulling it out of a box.
if
Forget
I
it.
didn't have my griddle in the box, I would have nowhere to put it. It would look even worse in that closet than it already does.
I've got one of those electric griddle things.
Right, but like I don't have
It's
space
just like
for it.
leaning up next to like my pots and pans. It just like I've got this one little spot. It kind of slides
Yeah,
in.
we don't have space. Like we gotta have them in boxes just for
See, the box takes up
spatial.
more space though,
But
it's
it's
in a different
stackable.
place. Yeah, okay, I
Yeah.
can see that. I don't have a good place.
If
to
I
store
snapped
stackable
my
stuff like
fingers
that.
and everything that was stacked in boxes became unboxed,
it would just
it would be
all over your kitchen.
atrocious.
Yeah, that's fair. Since you're storing in a different location. Okay, so this is a total tangent, but I mean,
Well, if someone's keeping their pens in boxes, then I guess that's one way to store them.
see, I am referencing my pens all the time, so keeping them in boxes to me would be untenable.
No, that I don't actually think that's
especially
a good
because
idea.
like different colors of pens in boxes that all look identical.
Yeah.
that would be maddening. And I'm a super visual person too. Like, I mean, I'm going back to like either like a kitchen. The perfect kitchen to me would be like no kitchen doors. It would look ugly, but I could see everything.
We have glass on ours.
See, Rachel and I talked about doing that. We don't have glass.
Yeah.
And, we have certain things like if I open up the pantry, like not the full pantry, but like the cabinet that has like tea and like that kind of stuff, it's horrifying.
Oh, no, luckily that
Because,
one's
like,
not glass.
I don't know what's in there.
So some of ours are glass, some of them are. The ones above the range are not glass. And that's where we have the tea and my
you got, like,
three mini
Old
waffle
recipe
irons.
books that were given to you by somebody.
That one is atrocious. I'm glad that one's covered.
Yep.
So the ones that are glass, we just make sure that those kind of stay more or less neat.
See, I would, yeah. So I'm a visual person. I would love it to just have everything visual. So that's why like pens coming out of boxes is a no-brainer for me.
Yeah.
Even if it's like a collectible pen, and I even plan on writing with it, I'm still gonna take it out of the box and I'm gonna use it, but I'll keep the box. So anyway, I'm going on so many tangents here.
This one's a long one.
But my whole point about this is basically if there's anything notable and like non-disposable about an inexpensive pen case, I'll keep like one of them and then toss the rest.
Okay.
Just so I have an example of it. Like a TWSBI is a perfect example.
Sure.
The box, and that's a good example because the box is way nicer than it should be for the price point that it is. It's disproportionate. But most other ones like regular LAMY Safaris and stuff like that, I'm tossing those boxes so fast.
I do keep the swipe boxes though, because all that random stuff that comes in there, like
I've thrown out all my. I kept one swipe box, threw out all the rest.
But
I keep all the extra accessories.
Right, for me, keeping all the accessories in the boxes is just.
See, I file all my accessories separately.
Oh,
so like I
don't have room for that.
Well, I have a whole bin of spare converters, and I have a whole bin of cartridges and other like tools and pen cleaning.
I have arranged boxes for that for work purposes, like spare stuff. I've you've seen those boxes. But for my personal stuff, I don't have any storage for that, so I just keep them in boxes.
Well, my personal stuff is my business stuff, so that's like kind of what I'm talking about here. So I mean,
I am not physically adhered to the business. Like the core of my being is not attached to the business in name. So I'm in a little bit different circumstance.
So I'm really not keeping many of the inexpensive. Like I would probably use like $100 as a pretty decent price point for cutoff. If it's more expensive than that, I'm more inclined to keep the box. But even then, it's kind of like using Pilot, like Vanishing Point stuff as an example. I don't keep every Pilot Vanishing Point box anymore. I will keep the limited edition ones. So if there's something that's limited edition, especially if it like has a number that's associated with the pen, I will keep that. I don't know why, probably just for collectability, but I do keep all those. And I will keep any special boxes, like truly unique, truly special boxes where the box itself is something cool and worth keeping on its own.
That's what I do.
Then I'll keep those.
Sure.
But that's about it. But for me, that's just a lot of them because I have a lot of pens.
Yes, you do.
And you asked me to bring one special box.
I did. I brought my brown orange.
You brought your
box.
brown orange, so I brought one too.
What you got?
This is a limited edition.
Is that an Amiki?
Pilot Rodden Toki.
Oh.
So this was a special anniversary pen. I still got this one in the
in the box.
It's got paper.
Dang. All right.
So I'm going to take the whole thing out here. I don't have the pen in here. This is just the box. So the box itself, this is like the outer box, lifts off.
Ooh.
It's got like cloth here. It's got wood in this like octagonal shape.
With hinges. Like
and
wooden
it's got
hinges.
Wooden hinges.
Wow.
And then you open it up. It's got an ink in here. I got all the literature and all that kind of stuff. It's got a nameplate with engraving. Like, I feel like I'm throwing out part of the pen if I'm throwing this out.
Oh, yeah. No, you cannot throw that away.
You know
that
what I mean?
Would be
So,
a crime.
This is like definitely a more special, box for a more special pen.
Yeah.
This kind of stuff I'm keeping.
Definitely.
But like these days, this is kind of what it takes to be like, yeah, I'm going to keep that. Everything else, I'm like, It's like gotten to the point where it's like, it's not convenient for me to store this, or even if I have stored it for like other pens, I'm like, I stored that 8 years ago. I've never pulled that thing back out.
Yeah, that
it's
was like
gone.
when I bought that Visconti Divina, the Leonardo Machina, and I had that big thing. I just threw that. Yeah, I just chucked it out into the dumpster. It was unwieldy, just unwieldy. I just took it to the soccer field and boom.
Right. Yeah, of course.
No, I don't have one of those.
All right, Drew.
All right, let's round this out. From the Branimator. The Branimator is asking if Brian had to write with a brown ink and Drew had to write with a blue ink, which would you choose?
Hey, yo, it's opposite day.
We both like brown and blue. Like, let's.
We do. We ham it up a little bit for the show.
I love blue.
I give Drew a hard time about liking brown.
And other things.
He genuinely does like brown more than I understand, but I don't dislike brown. It's like the whole cake versus pie debate.
Yeah.
It's like, I love pie.
Yeah.
I'm not going to turn down a pie.
No, but cake's better.
But I'm going to take cake every time. Yeah. Okay. So I tend towards a preference of like darker, more chocolatey browns. Probably because I like chocolate. But I don't know. I just, in general, pretty much any color, I prefer like the darker, more saturated colors. That's nothing special.
Yeah.
So some of my favorites, Diamond Chocolate Brown.
Yep.
It's like a perfect like Hershey
Your
brown color.
recommendation for that ink got me adding it onto the best inks in every color.
Well, there you go.
Thing we did. Yep.
That's a good
That was
one.
because of you.
Yep. Diamond chocolate brown, Noodler's walnut, Noodler's brown, just the straight up brown, Private Reserve chocolate. I mean, it's pretty easy. I love using walnut wood.
There's a
two of these
trend
named
here.
after chocolate. Well, it's because it's like an undeniably appropriate name for that thing. So, well performing, all nice dark brown colors, very saturated. Great work. I think dark brown and dark purple, maybe dark green too, are like some of the best like work safe alternate ink colors. If you've been using just like blue and black,
Definitely
and
dark
you
green.
like need to venture outside of that,
Yeah.
I would say, I mean, dark green is definitely more interesting. I think dark brown is probably like the next like safest appropriate. And then you go dark green, and then if you want to get wild, going like dark purple.
Gray is also a good alternative.
Gray is a good one too. Yeah, fair enough. Other browns that I find interesting, but I just don't find myself maybe using quite as much, are more like the sepia tone browns.
Oh yeah.
Those are really nice, and I always find them pleasing, but I'm never like grabbing them to fill in my pens as much as I would think. Especially like using those on off-white paper, because it kind of gives that like old-timey kind of look.
That's cool.
So I do like that look. I like using that for correspondence. So getting like a nice off-white correspondence paper with a sepia tone brown, it just looks so classy. And so Urban Lee Detail is one of my favorites. Really good shading on that one. Noodler's Golden Brown, kind of in the same vein, but that's a more saturated color. Robert Oster Cafe Crema, that's a good one.
Yep.
And Diamine Golden Brown. So all of those kind of fit into that sepia type category. And there's a bunch of other ones that are all very similar to that. Red browns and copper browns, I'm not, I'm more picky about those. I'm not as drawn to just like the straight up red browns. It's a pretty popular color family, but it just doesn't ring my bell.
I love them. Like Monteverde Canyon Rust and Diamine Ancient Copper. Love them. However, I
like Ancient Copper.
I don't use them because they barnacle on me.
Yeah?
I don't use them.
Okay. They do,
and it
tend
makes
to
me so
barnacle.
sad because I love the colors so much.
Yeah.
But they just always crustify on
It's
me.
just something about that color family. It's the whatever the red aspect
Yep.
is that they get added to it. Yeah, that's what it is. That's fair.
I'm just like, it's just not worth it. If I was using them every day, then sure, I could keep things flowing.
Yeah,
you
you would have to use it more regularly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then I didn't personally choose many like shimmering browns.
There aren't many.
There aren't many. There are a few.
Shogun.
Yeah. And then Urban did one.
Shogun.
Is that the one?
Or that is one that they did, yeah.
Maybe. I can't remember.
Unless you're thinking of
I don't think it's
no, you're thinking of
it was the
Karub
1670
the Sheep Ray.
Karub the Sheep Ray, yeah, that one. So it's a really nice color, but I'm never like grabbing that.
Yeah.
Something about like shimmer and a brown, I'm like, it's weird to me.
This one, the Diamine Winter Spice or Holiday Spice. Winter Spice, Holiday Spice.
Winter Holiday Spice.
Winter Spice. This one has a little bit. And if you want to look there, it's got a little bit of a green shimmer, but it's very light.
Okay.
So that's one that I think brown with shimmer really works.
Okay.
Because it's super faint.
It's almost more of a sheen than
It
shimmer.
is. They say shimmer and sheen on it, but I really only see sheen. So either they're lying or it's
I
really
see the
light.
shimmer now. Yeah.
Yeah.
When the light hits it right.
It's not a lot though. So
it's very subtle.
That's what I like.
Okay. That's a very appropriate name for what that ink looks like.
I know. I really like it. This has been like my holiday ink of choice.
See, I would never grab that and fill my pen with it though.
But
like it looks nice.
It looks so nice.
But I'm just not gonna like. That's the kind of thing I'd write with it for like 2 lines and be like, yeah, all right, I'm done with that. I mean, just I don't know. I'm not very adventurous. I like blue so much. I can't help it. Just embrace that about myself over the years. Okay, cool. What about you, Drew? You got some notes in here.
Oh, yeah, I like blue.
Blues.
I like blue.
Yeah.
I tend to, when I'm going after blues, I always gravitate toward the sheening blues. Like ever since I found Majestic Blue, Diamine Majestic Blue, that was like the first blue that I was like, What? And
That was
it's
at a time,
so good.
That was one of the blues that stood out as a sheening blue at a time when sheening was not something people
It
were
wasn't a
talking about.
thing, no. It's like the OG sheener.
Yeah.
And then I write with Naples Blue, PR Naples Blue a lot.
Okay.
That's like the cartridges that I have, so I write
It's like
with
a
those.
lighter color blue. It's more
No,
like
no, it's a darker blue.
Naples?
Well, in the pen that I use, it is. And it's a heavy sheener too. But and again, and I'm also using polar.
Yeah, it's lighter. It's lighter.
Not in my pen. It's not. It's always darker in my pen.
Okay.
Dark sheener. Maybe it's just the pen.
It's lighter than Majestic Blue for sure.
Yeah, maybe my pen's just always saturated because it's just putting down a lot of ink or it's sitting around for a long time. But anyway, it's a beautiful blue. I like it, but it does sheen and sheen doesn't dry. Polar blue, Polar Glow. I love it. It sheens heavily and it doesn't dry. So I need to just stop using the blue sheeners. Even though I love them, they don't treat me well.
If you want that sheen, you're going to
I
pay
know,
for it.
but they're still smudgy. They're all smudgy. So I do like the look of those. But if I had to pick an ink, so it says that if we had to write with a blue or brown ink, like I would gladly write with a blue ink. But if I had to pick just one blue ink, I'd probably go with the old Konpeki because
That's a good one.
it is maintenance free, it's easy flowing, and it's also vibrant. So
is, yeah.
where like
It's vibrant, but it's not like make your eyes bleed.
right,
you
but
know?
but like if there was a Venn diagram of vibrance and maintenance,
Yeah.
you know, and there are a lot of them that are very one or like no, sorry, I guess it wouldn't be a Venn diagram because a lot of the times vibrance equals maintenance. So I don't know what sort of
Right.
graph I need to have to show that, but I think that
It's like
whatever
it's like a seesaw.
whatever that graph is,
Like, you know.
maybe it's an axis, maybe it's just an X and Y axis, and Konpeki is right there in the middle where it's both vibrant and low maintenance. Not extremely vibrant, but also not extremely low maintenance. So I do like that one as a good looking blue ink that does not. You don't have to forsake vibrance for maintenance. You don't have to forsake whatever. You don't have to get maintenance.
Vibrance. Yeah.
Whatever.
Everybody knows what you're saying except you.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm saying. So that's a good go-to. Although there were several comments. I don't know if it was somebody picking their favorite. It was you when you were talking about your favorite blue ink. There were a lot of comments, and there were at least 2 people in YouTube land that said Diamine Oxford Blue is their go-to. And I've been meaning to try that one because I've never written with Oxford Blue. I've written with China Blue. And then
that one's forgettable.
And then PR American Blue I like. But yeah, Oxford Blue. There are a lot of people that are big fans of that as like
It's a deep,
I know,
rich
and
color.
I keep telling myself I'm going to write with it, and I haven't pulled the trigger on that yet, but I'm going to. I'm really excited about trying.
You
Oxford
won't regret
Blue.
it. That's a good.
All right, well maybe
color.
I'll round back, come back around and let you guys know how.
Let's hassle
Oxford
Drew.
Blue.
Let's hassle Drew about that. He's got to ink up some Oxford Blue.
Let's do it.
That's a good one.
So yeah, Konpeki now, maybe Oxford Blue later.
Good stuff. All right, that's it for questions. Let's do a pen spotlight, shall we? All right, Drew. We're gonna spotlight a pen that's not new. I don't even know if we sell this color still. Was this a special edition or what?
I don't know.
The Aion green?
You should check.
I didn't research anything.
Oh, it is a
we got
special.
the dark green.
It's a special edition, but yeah, it's still there.
we still got it. Oh, we're
right.
doing the whole thing.
No,
Okay.
we don't. Yeah, we don't.
You want to show it? You can show it. What the
Okay.
heck? Give people something to see.
All right. Look at that giant wound on your hand. What'd you do?
Oh, I got a story about that.
All right.
yeah.
We'll get that later. All right.
All right, cool. You ready?
There it is. Let's talk about that nib. Well, no, let's go to the exterior first. What are we looking at here?
So LAMY Aion. So it's an all metal pen, which is not necessarily the case for LAMY because a lot of them they have plastic, especially in the lower price ones. But you know they've got the Studio and they've got some other metal ones, right?
You didn't unthread that, did
it's
you?
a longer pen. No, it's a snap cap.
Snappy.
So it snaps. It's got this little ridge right here, that's what is actually doing the snapping. That's what's holding the cap on there, which is fun. So it snaps on, but then on the back it pushes to post. It's not like the most solid posting. You got to like push it on there a little bit. And it's a pretty long pen, so I don't know that most people would necessarily be so inclined to want to post it. Me personally, I don't post this pen very much because I do feel like I have to cram it on there. And it's so long, even with my big hand, I find it very comfortable to use just as it is.
We were talking about how it might be a little front weighted. So
I feel like it
does
is.
posting help balance that out?
Posting definitely does add more back weight to it. And the cap itself is not super heavy.
Do you prefer it front weighted like that, like without the cap?
I don't know. I prefer the weight of the pen without the cap on it, honestly. If I'm going to have any weighting on my pen, I would prefer I mean, I like balanced pens, but I would prefer front weighting to back weighting.
Oh, absolutely.
Personally. So I don't mind leaving it unposted at all. So anyway, yeah, so it's really easy to cap and uncap. It's got an insert in there, but I don't feel like it seals maybe quite as well as some of the other pens, which is one thing I know that, some people have, a little bit more of an issue with this pen, maybe drying out a little bit. It's not a huge issue, but it's a little bit maybe more something that's brought up than some of the other models. The nib itself is a different shape. Like the wings are more rounded.
Yeah.
A little less triangular. I mean, that's obviously still pointed. And that was part of the design of the pen. So LAMY, when they have pen designers that come on, they like to have designers that don't do anything in the pen space. They're like known for designing other things. And I am failing to remember who the designer was that designed this pen, but that was the case here. So they went with something they obviously incorporated, the LAMY feel, but it's a very different looking LAMY pen than some of their other ones. So they designed this nib. They wanted to still fit the nibs on here. So you can still swap out all of the other LAMY nibs. They're just friction fit on there, but the look is slightly different. I don't find that it writes much different, so the grind and everything is fairly similar. It's just the way that they cut the wings is slightly different. So that is something notable about the Aion. I do like the overall design of it. I find it to be very appealing. I like the kind of like sort of a two-tone like finish that you get.
It's not polished aluminum, but it's
definitely brushed. Like this is brushed
but
here.
It's a different type. There's two different types of matte metals.
Well, this is, you've got like a brush, and the way it's brushed around the diameter, as opposed to like the LAMY 2000, the brushing is like along the length of the pen. This one is like kind of curled around it. So it's got a little bit different feel to it. It's very subtle, but the light kind of hits it different. But this is more just like a straight up matte finish. So it's much more even. It's not like a, here almost you can tell there's
almost like a satin
strokes.
finish.
Yeah, it's like a satin finish, which I actually really like a lot because I'm generally not a huge fan of metal grip sections. But this one is great because it almost feels rubbery. In fact, I almost thought it was rubber when I first used it, but it's not. It's just straight up metal. You getting it there? So I really like the like in-hand feel of this because you feel almost sort of like a softness like you would if there was something rubber, but you don't have to worry about there actually being anything rubber that might get damaged or wear away. There's no step to it. So that I love about the way the cap design is. You can hold your pen anywhere on here. It's a very slight taper of a grip, and it's super comfortable to hold pretty much no matter how you hold your pen. So that I really like about this. And, it uses all the same LAMY proprietary cartridge converter, all that kind of stuff. Not eyedropper convertible or anything because it's a metal pen and it would, possibly corrode with the ink and stuff like that. But, you can refill your cartridges or use your converters or whatever.
That's a good looking pen.
It's a good looking pen, and it honestly doesn't get as much love as I think that it should. The clip too is very simple. It's very straightforward. No, it's all right. And it's spring loaded too. So that's very pleasant to use.
And this is right in the same price point as the Studio.
Yeah, $71.20 for this pen.
So
it's not like an intro pen, so I think it just gets overshadowed by the Safari.
This green one I would buy before most Studios, I think.
Okay.
But I think it's mostly the green. Like this specific color I think is better than a lot of the Studios out there.
See, they did a blue one before too, which was awesome. Like the colors have been pretty good. And honestly, a little more vibrant than you might expect with some of the LAMY.
I wouldn't buy the black over any of the Studios though.
Fair enough.
I think it's right neck and neck with the Studio for me. I think that both that and the Studio have some pros and cons. Like this one, I like the clip way better than the Studio.
Yeah.
But I like the balance better on the Studio. I like the grip better on this than I do the Studio.
See, for me, the Studio, the grip is so tapered that it's not as comfortable for me.
I like this better, yeah.
And the grip is it's definitely better if you have bigger hands.
But I like the weight on the Studio. Because this one is really, the barrel of this is very lightweight.
The Studio is heavier.
Yeah.
And it feels like more dense.
I like that.
Yeah. Okay.
But I don't like the clip. I like this clip.
It's a better clip.
I wish they could combine this in the Studio.
And I like the spring, it's not a tension clip, it's a spring clip.
No, I like that clip a lot.
Yeah, it's a little more functional.
And I like the overall shape of this better than the Studio.
Yeah.
I want the weight of the Studio, I guess, and the form factor of this.
Now, how do you feel about this, Drew? This is I know you feel about pens when they're posted. This is really annoying, but like any magnetic cat pen or any like clickable pen like this, like it spins around pretty easily inside here. Does that bother you?
If it's indicative of
it seems like something that would bother you, which is why I'm asking.
No, not really. I mean, it makes me...
Because it's a little weird. That is something that I will say. The whole rest of the pen feels so solid.
Yeah.
And again, this is not a knock on the pen at all, but because...
What is rotating?
So it's the whole pen.
There's not
the cap is gripping this little edge here, and then this whole rest of the pen is like able to spin inside.
I was wondering if maybe it was spinning an inner cap as well.
I don't think so. It doesn't feel like that. I mean, here,
that does bother.
There's not a lot of tension there, so I could see where that would feel like it's not as solid of like a build quality thing, but I know that that's not the case.
But it's clicking in there. It's getting a good
it's a very firm
connection.
Clip. I've never had any issue with it like not clicking or anything like that, but I could see that as being more of a perception thing.
Yeah.
It's like a hand feel thing. And then the posting could be more solid.
Yeah, this pen hasn't quite caught on.
It really hasn't, which is part of why we wanted to feature it today, because we'd love to get your feedback if you got one of these or if you've been curious about it. But we wanted to just give it a little love, feature it out there in case you've been like kind of bored of some of the other LAMY options. You haven't given this one a shot. Give it a look, because I think it's worth a second chance.
I really do like the form factor though, and I love this color.
Yeah.
I just wish I could pull some of the studio elements and just slap them on here.
That's fair enough. You want like a love child between the studio and the Aion.
I do. Let's get them together.
Fair enough. All right. That's the spotlight for this week. Let's move on nextly to the what's happening.
All right.
Nonsense time.
So amazing. Christmas has come and gone. New Year's happened.
It did. It's a new year. Oh, yeah, it's 2023 now. What?
It is.
The world?
Welcome.
What in the world?
To Tootie Tootie 3. We did have a Christmas/New Year's party. Our friends Rick and David threw a thing, and we went there. We had some delicious foods, and Archer read comic books in one of their side rooms, which was very cozy. Wood paneling, fire.
Ooh.
Like they decorate a ton, but he was in there, and I take my breaks from social engagements from time to time, and having a kid always allows me to just kind of like escape, be like, I'm gonna go check on the kid, and I just kind of get to chill away from people. And I'm sitting there talking to him. He's playing with his Transformers, and I see that they have just a massive glass like vase of coins, just like random pocket change. So I go up, I'm like, hey, David, can I dump out all your coins and look for things, prior to 1964? He's like,
That is such a nerd move right there. But
sure.
I love it.
But of course, I got to be like, yeah, Archer's really curious, But no,
I'm picturing you like Dwight at the
that's what
party.
That was me.
We're like going around. Can I go up on your roof and check your gutters? Like,
so I come back. I'm like, hey Archer, you want to search for 1964 quarters? He's like, why?
Oh, he wasn't even on board with it.
I was like, because anything before 1964 is silver. It's real silver. He's like, okay, if that's what you want to do. So I'm like, yeah, let's do it.
Oh, what
so
a sport.
I dumped all of them out. He got into it eventually, but
okay.
Yeah, I was just like. Shannon walked up. She's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm sorting these people's quarters."
I can imagine Shannon just being like, "I can't take you anywhere, can I?"
Are you going to keep them? I'm like, no, I'm not going to keep them. I just want them to know if they have any silver coins. They should know.
I so get that.
Yeah,
I would totally do something like that.
But we just looked through the quarters. They had not a single 64. They had a bunch of 65s, not a single pre-64. And
they probably had another guest that came over.
Jerk! I knew it.
Did that and took all the pre-64s.
No, so I said
it's the only explanation.
I said next time we're going to look for 1945 nickels. So part 2. We'll
next time. So you're like planning to do this again.
Oh, we were there last year too. So
you're anticipating you're getting invited back after doing this?
Unless my antics, soured things. But yeah, so we did that. New Year's Eve though, I didn't do anything. Shannon went to Josh and Jeffrey's, and I stayed home with Archer. And we didn't stay up late.
No,
not really. It was fine. We just chilled and played video games. So
it's fair.
I let him stay up, till I was like, hey, just let me know when you're at a good stopping point. And he's like, all right, I'm good. It's like, all right,
nice.
Go to bed. So yeah, my New Year's was fine. The dogs didn't like the fireworks, so obviously that's a thing.
Oh yeah,
that's a thing. Although the day after New Year's, the Goulet Pen Company was closed.
That's right.
So I got the day off.
We observed New Year's on
Yes.
the 2nd. Yep.
So we got the day off, and Shannon and I spent it together, just kind of doing random stuff. We slept in. Well, I had to take Archer to school. Came back.
Yeah, it was weird because our kids still had school, but we were off. I was like, this feels wrong.
Yeah. So I dropped him off, came back. I opened the door. Dogs didn't bark at me. I'm like, they're both one dog, but then the other 2 dogs are in their crate. I'm like, honey, she's in bed. And I was like, what are you doing? I thought we were going to go get breakfast. She's like, I've always wanted to do this. Like, basically get Archer up and ready and then go right back to bed. I was like, you know what, girl?
Living the dream.
You do you. I'll go downstairs, play some video games. Made a pot of coffee, brought it in to the den, sat on the love sack, had my carafe, my cream. So I'm like, like, it was fantastic. And then she finally gets up. We go out for breakfast.
Nice.
We go walk around the mall and just go in some random stores, come back, chill. It was a delightful day off.
That is a day off, right?
It really was.
That's fantastic.
Did a few things, but it was quite a delightful day.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really enjoyable. Did get some stuff done. Not a lot of stuff. I didn't get any of my Christmas decorations taken down. They're all still there.
Yeah.
I'm kind of gonna wait till all the neighbors start taking theirs down and be like, all right, we're like the second to the last house that hasn't done it. I guess we got to do it.
Yeah.
But I brought down the bins from the attic and put them in the middle of the living room. So I'm
progress.
like, all right, they're there. If anybody wants to start doing it, you now have the vessels to
things
do it
happen
with.
to find their way in there.
If things happen to do it, yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
So they're down there. I did get, I think I mentioned this to you because you said you had the same problem. You know how kids pull the towels off the
Oh yeah.
yeah. So I fixed that. Had to put a couple new anchors in the left side. The right side though, toothpicks. Did it just fine.
Nice.
Shove a bunch of toothpicks in there, but nice and tight now.
All right.
So that worked.
The next time it gets pulled, yeah.
Well, absolutely. I fully expect. I was like, Arch, remember, this thing is meant to hold towels.
Yeah.
Not the weight
of a child
yes.
swinging from a towel. Yeah.
So I got that done. And then I went, so unlike you with your 90 sheds, I have but one small, it's like it's attached to the back of the house. You can't access it from the front of the house, but it is attached to the house. Probably like maybe a 6x5 room
unit.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I have my folding workbench there,
Nice.
and then another shelf with random kayaking gear and inflatable random crap for the backyard, and then another drawer for spray paint and paint and stuff.
Nice.
I took everything out. Took everything out of there, swept, cleaned.
Wow.
The exterminators had left some mouse traps in there. Did not like seeing those. Put everything back, neater, more organized. I was very proud of myself for doing that.
All right.
And it was a really nice weekend to do it too.
Yeah,
because
so nice.
It was
in Virginia this weekend.
The thing that sucked though was like I've been telling myself, expecting it to never happen. The next pretty day, I'm going to go ahead and do this.
Go do that.
And I'm like, it's January. It's not going to be a pretty day. But I was like, oh no.
It was what, like 65?
I know.
Like
I was like, Drew, you have
so
your empty promises to yourself mean absolutely jack if you don't actually do it today. So I if I had any semblance of self accountability, I had to. Yeah. So I did.
Good for you.
I did. And then I watched another Indiana Jones movie. I'd started watching them all in succession. So I watched Last Crusade. I think that was Sunday I watched that. So that's the third in the series. Crystal Skull is next. And it is infamous for being very bad. I've only seen it once. Saw it in the theater.
Okay.
Although it's part of my Blu-ray collection, so I have it. So I will watch that next, and I'm going into it with an open and positive mindset.
Okay.
Because that movie gets just destroyed online and everywhere because people just hate it so much. And I'm sure it can't be as bad. Like
it's probably not that bad.
I didn't like it when I first saw it, but I had very lofty expectations. I'm thinking that now
it'll probably be more appropriate.
I think so. I think that my expectations, like I know the bad parts. I'm not going to dwell on them. I'm going to see what I can find that is redeemable and enjoyable and fun, and I'm going to have fun with it. And that's going to be that because they've got that new one coming out. So I want to have fresh stuff in my brain. Now,
I've never seen Crystal Skull. That's the one. I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, I mean it has some weird stuff in it and some.
I haven't gone out of my way to see it.
You don't need to. I've heard. No, the CG is unnecessary, and and watching Last Crusade, you realize like how much more impressive it is nowadays, where you know that this, that, and that would have been computer generated. They wouldn't have done those practically.
Right.
So going back and watching it is even more fulfilling because, yeah, you can tell what's, a matte behind it, but like they did a matte painting instead of a CG background. So that's equally impressive. Like the Zeppelin, you can tell is fake, but in a way it's more impressive because everything was just more manual. So I enjoyed it. And I'm looking forward to the next one.
Nice.
We'll see. The new one, though, coming out is the first one that did not have Spielberg writing and Lucas directing.
Wow.
So it's pretty different. James Mangold is doing it.
Who is
and
that?
he is the director of 3:10 to Yuma, which is
that?
that's the Western with Russell Crowe and Christian Bale.
Who are they? I'm just kidding. I do know them.
Yeah, no, he's good. He's a very accomplished director. So that'll be interesting. So,
cool.
High hopes for Indy 5.
Interesting.
And then finally, I used a safety razor on my face. One of the old school. Yeah.
Okay.
Brian Kay from the Goulet Pen Company.
Yep.
He got into it. Of course he did. Because
that's on brand. Yeah.
he's a hobbyist of all sorts. And he brought it. He was like, I guess he just knew that I'm susceptible to these things.
You're highly influential.
So he started talking to me about it. I'm like, oh, yeah. Tell me more. What's that? What does that mean? And so one day he's like, would you like to learn more? I was like, yes, I would. And he just brings in a bunch of razors, a bunch of different blades. Like, all right, this one's this one's that. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, do you want to borrow this? I was like, yeah. It's like, all right, here's a blade, here's a razor. Took it home.
Wow.
Didn't destroy my face.
Okay.
And totally get the appeal. Those razors are like cents.
Oh yeah.
You can buy like a pack of 100 for just a couple bucks. And I totally see the value of that. So if it can cut even, marginally as well as, these overpriced Dollar Shave Club random things that I'm getting, like I'm all on board for that. I don't want it to become a hobby. Like he was talking to me about soaps and things like that. I was like, no.
Oh yeah, you can get all.
I was like, I'm not going to do.
It's like a rabbit hole, just like fountain
I'm not
pens.
going to do the badger hair thing. I want less to worry about. And like a fountain pen, I feel like if I can just think of this now, fountain pen is a rabbit hole that I got down, obviously, but
yes.
I want this to be as if I didn't work here, and a fountain pen was just a more enjoyable, sustainable, interesting, and effective way to write things.
Yeah, so you're not going to like change how much of your life you devote to shaving.
No.
But you just want a better experience while you do it.
Yes. And
seems appropriate.
Ideally more affordable.
Okay.
In the long run.
Yeah, that's what I thought about fountain pens too. And boy, is that... It can be done.
Well, see...
It can be done.
Shaving is still something you have to do. Writing is not something you have to do.
I mean, you don't have to. You can just grow mange out of your face. But yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, no.
It's something that if you do nothing... there will be consequences.
Yeah.
So you got to
it's like a toothbrush. Like
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So yeah,
I have a couple of safety razors. I've never really given it a super fair shake. I have really sensitive skin.
Yeah.
Here, so I've I don't know. I got a higher barrier there.
It might actually be better for you.
It could be, but I think because I know it's such a rabbit hole, it's been one of those things where I'm like, no, I'm not going to go. Not going to go down that right now.
Yeah.
But I might be safe because I don't see that as like something I would get.
For me, it's practical because I hate buying razors. I always have.
Oh yeah, you feel like you're getting scammed every time. Oh,
absolutely. And Dollar Shave Club, they don't even send you a new handle. Like when your old one wears out, I've bought like 3 handles from them, and I have to pay for them. Like,
I don't use them.
Do they expect me to not wear one out? They're so stupid. And that I did that because I hated buying razors at Target or whatever. So. Yeah, it's something I want to not worry about as much. And I think this might be able to get me there.
Okay.
So we'll see. So far, so good. Just done it once, but...
all right.
Yeah. What about you? What's going on in the world of Brain Goblet?
I have a transitional question here. It's a transition from you to me.
Okay. You're going to seg your own way?
I'm gonna seg it.
All right.
New Year's resolutions. Did you... we talked about it last time. Did you... think about anything? Contemplate anything?
Yeah, although someone on YouTube, and I forgot your name, I'm sorry, recommended that I not get a Lloydstrom 5-year, but instead Midori actually makes a 5-year journal.
Oh.
So I'm going to look into that.
Okay.
And that means I get to delay my resolution even longer.
Okay. I see your motivation. You just wait for some other brand to come out with one.
You
then
know,
you can
I
enjoy
want to
it
keep my
forever.
options open.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I didn't like come up with a firm New Year's resolution, but sleep is an issue for me. So I'm getting more intentional sleep. I don't have like a hyper specific like sleep X numbers of a night or whatever, but I'm actively talking to doctors about this.
So
is
your
don't sleep
resolution
enough.
to solve a problem for sleep or to just sleep more?
I'll definitely sleep more. Yeah.
So is it more or less I need to, put myself to bed earlier, or my quality of sleep needs to be improved?
Yeah, I'm like seeing some specialists and things about this.
That
So
seems
it's like, yeah.
So that seems to be not an issue of you actually going to bed.
Well,
at a good
some of it
time.
might be lifestyle things,
Oh,
and
okay.
some of it I don't. That's why it's like it's sort of a resolution. It's something that I'm kind of addressing anyway, but like I know it will take concerted effort on my part, and some of it may be lifestyle things. Because I'm an excitable person, and I
don't know what that's like.
I've talked before about how like basically I don't want to go to sleep. I basically like
Do things until you
admit defeat at the end of the day when my body's given up.
Yeah.
Which is fine, but then like it doesn't set me up well for the next day.
One might call that unsustainable.
I would say so.
Yeah.
So I'm probably, stress over time. I don't know, related to running a business during a pandemic, and
You might have discovered
all that stuff.
You might have discovered the age in which that is no longer feasible.
Yeah. What you could say, one might be approaching an age towards the middle of their life, where these types of things start to add up over time and all that kind of stuff. So it's not like a hyper specific thing, but
Well, that's good.
it's
I'm glad to
definitely
hear
something
that.
Yeah. I don't want to be like, oh, lose weight and da 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 da.
Well,
I need
think
to do all that stuff too, but like
I want to say
sleep I think is like the key thing I need to work on.
I want to say that for someone like you who is a driver, someone who has built their life and helped the lives of others by being a driver, a doer,
Yeah.
it's probably harder for people like you to reach these conclusions and to say let me. So I think that you deserve credit for that. I think that's really
Yeah,
cool.
I'll appreciate that. Yeah.
And I would prefer it if you stayed alive for the foreseeable future.
I plan to.
Good job. Thank you.
Plan to. Yeah, absolutely. So that's the thing. I feel like the last couple of years I've casually mentioned half-baked resolution, but then I end up really accomplishing it quite well with the woodworking and the welding and all that. Those are all past things that I've done. So I'm like, well, this kind of falls in that vein. Maybe I'll be an awesome sleeper by the end of the year. Who knows?
There you go.
So kind of
you don't halfway do things.
Well, sometimes I do, but
yeah.
it's usually obvious when I do. But yeah, last week, so I was a little bit under the weather.
You were very under the weather.
I was starting to get there when we did the Pencast.
Oh, last week during the Pencast,
last
you
week
were a
during
little.
the Pencast,
Oh, yes.
And then like the next day, it was not good.
You went like way under. You went like subterranean. The weather.
Yeah. I don't like being sick, but when I do it all the way.
That's what I'm just saying. Yeah, you don't do anything half.
I was basically like laid out for like 5 straight days.
Yeah, Rachel was saying that like you were just falling asleep all over the house.
Yeah, I would like come and do our morning stand-ups virtually because I didn't want to like bring anything into the office. And then after the stand-ups, I was like completely drained and I would fall asleep for 2 hours. And I was like, okay, maybe something's wrong, because I was like, I'm like, I will power through, that's like my default mode. But like when it's that hard to just like function awake, doing anything, I'm like, I think I'm sick, And I had like kind of a sore throat. I never had a fever. I never had any of that kind of stuff. I tested no COVID, any of that kind of stuff. It's just something, whatever's going around. There's a lot of people getting colds and all that kind of stuff. Something just got me and it just zapped all my energy. That was like my primary thing. So it's like, it's really frustrating when that kind of thing happens. And you and I were talking offline. It was like, it sort of like feels like somebody's like coming in and like taking all your stuff.
That's what I said. Yeah.
You're like, somebody's just like taking my energy.
Like I normally have way more to do things with. And you're like, and now I have nothing to do anything with. Like who took my stuff? Yep. Who took the things that I used to get through life?
Yeah. And it was so frustrating because I had a relatively light week. A lot of my meetings were canceled and that kind of stuff. So the weather was beautiful. I had all these opportunities to like catch up on things or do stuff around the house or take down all this stuff. I had no energy for any of that. So I basically was just like a lump for like 5 straight days, which is awful, but I tried not to beat myself up too much about it. And so I just slept a lot. And that was like, okay. Yeah,
look at that. You're already sleeping better.
I am, but it's like, I need to sleep better when it doesn't like take that to make it.
Well, you didn't have a choice. You need to sleep better when it is your choice.
Yeah, exactly.
Not when you're just on the death's door.
I know, exactly. So anyway, I leaned into it, got a lot of sleep, feeling way better. And it was like kind of the thing, like, I think I was getting sick for like several days and kind of powering through. But once I finally like truly gave out and I was like, I don't feel like myself. And then once like Sunday rolled around and I started to feel better, I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot what it was like to feel better and just like naturally have any energy at all and not just have to like muster it up. You know what I mean?
If it makes you feel any better, I don't think anybody in the comments said like, "Oh my God, what's wrong with Brian? Like he looks like hell." Like,
well, that's good.
No one said anything like that. So
that's good.
You passed that. You fooled everybody.
I genuinely didn't feel that bad until like Wednesday morning when I woke up. Actually, it was not long after we finished the Pencast and I like drove home and then I was like, boy, I'm really feeling pretty drained. But I had like worked a full day and all that kind of stuff. It's not unusual, but I was like, boy, I'm really feeling pretty tired. And then it didn't get better. But then yesterday we had off. So this is Tuesday, we're recording this. Monday we had off and it was great. It was the same kind of thing. Like we took our kids to school and Rachel and I were like, we like have the house, like we can do whatever. So we like had a nice like lunch date together and stuff like that. And weather was beautiful. And I've been sick or we've been visiting family or the weather's been too cold or rainy or crappy or whatever. So it's been like probably 4 weeks since I've gotten outside and like really gotten to do some fun stuff. So I took down like 5 trees yesterday because I was like, I feel good. It's like I'm behind on some emails. I definitely have some work to do. I got to prep for the Pencast. I was like, but it's so gorgeous outside and I feel good. Like I need to move my body.
I need to chop down some trees. Literally, that is like what mental health is for me. Is like moving my body. And literally I have a therapist and we talked about this. Like I'm like French Canadian on both sides. I literally have like French Canadian, like I gotta like farm and do stuff and take down trees and like my body always bulks up for the winter time. You know, I'm like a bear, you know, but it's like I'm meant to like move big heavy things and work with my hands. Like in my natural state, I'm not like sitting in an office all day. You know what I mean? Like I started out with the pen company because I was making things out of wood. I was making pens out of wood. You know, so it's like I'm trying to incorporate some of that stuff into my life just because like I'm finding like my body, my brain like needs that is amazing. I'm trying to think of like a gym that would have like some sort of fake tree chopping machine. Like what would that look like? And how like
some CrossFit device that's like,
but you still swing like something
like chopping
and
down
like
something with an axe.
Things fall off. I don't know. That's just oh man, that's hilarious.
I don't think you need to fake it. I think you just walk outside and like, I mean, literally my doctor was like, you just need to like.
You live in the middle of a forest, so you have opportunities.
I bought land specifically because this is like the thing I like to do. And
you sound like you're in the right spot.
My doctor and some of the health things, like in addition to the sleep and all that, she was like, you just need to like move a pile of dirt or rocks from like one place to another. So she was like, you see, like, cause you see some of the weird like CrossFit type things. Now the whole social component of CrossFit doesn't appeal to me in any way whatsoever, but like just slinging big ropes and carrying heavy chains and flipping big tires. Like,
or hitting the tire with a sledgehammer.
That looks awesome. Yeah. Like I would do any of that. So I'm like, I just need to like come up with like a crazy obstacle course, outdoor something or other.
Do you, I can come up with one for you. We'll see. Yeah, I'll come over. I'll do something. It's going to involve, you know, a row of like half dead trees you need to push over with your physical body. You know?
That's what I'm talking about.
A couple chainsaw things, a couple axe only things.
Okay.
A couple hacksaw only things.
Yeah. Okay.
So tell me this. So I'm guessing most of the work is done with chainsaw, right?
Some of it.
So describe to me your go-to axe, like your, like, I want to believe it has a name. I'm sure it doesn't. But it should.
I have many axes.
What is
that has been an unintentional collection that I've come
up
with.
What is like
axes and hatchets?
What's your go-to though? Like, all right. I'm gonna chop a tree down. Let me grab the beauty.
So yeah, I do have a go-to.
Your rosebud.
Yeah. So I'll typically use like I will use a chainsaw. Though, you know, chopping down a tree with an axe is something I haven't really tried yet, but I certainly could. Yeah, I mean,
I thought that would be like the best form of therapy.
Yeah, I mean, it's enough work to do all the rest of it that I haven't like needed to like add that in to the process. But I certainly could. Yeah. I mean, I do plenty of chopping and all that kind of stuff. So there's no question I do plenty of that. But like felling a tree with no machinery whatsoever. Yeah. I'll try that.
Please. I thought that you were doing this already.
No. It's mostly been with chainsaw.
Oh yeah, man. You put on some plaid, you go out there, that bulked up French Canadian bear inside of you is just going to be screaming with joy.
Yeah, my ancestors.
Especially if you have a double-bladed one.
I don't have a double-bladed one.
If you like, you
actually don't want a double-bladed one felling a tree.
Oh, I do.
Well, you might. You're not a Viking out there like trying to defeat the tree. No, you want the flat end on the back of the axe, because when you hammer the wedges in, like when you're felling the tree and you need to like nudge it in the direction, you need the wedges. You use the back of the axe as your hammer.
That makes sense.
So that's why you don't want a double-sided.
Well, the trees just fall where I tell them.
Okay, sure. You tell them with the wedge. That's how it happens.
All those trees I've cut down.
Yeah, right. No, usually what I use is Fiskars is a good brand. They have a lot of really good
Fiskars.
It's not pronounced Fiskars.
Really?
No, it's Fiskars.
Oh, I've only heard my grandmother say it because she liked her Fiskars scissors because she's a seamstress.
In America, we say Fiskars, I think, because it sounds more like scissors, which is what we associate. No, really. Like I've watched like YouTube videos.
Is it the name? Is it someone's name?
Fiskar? I don't remember. They've been around for forever. Okay. They've been around like 300 years or something crazy.
Fiskar.
They're from...
I will say that from now on.
They're from one of the Nordic
countries. I will judge anyone who does anything
Sweden? Else. Fiskars.
So you have a Fiskar's axe.
I have several axes and hatchets. Yeah, they make a lot of really good outdoor stuff.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I don't know if I can on the fly find the stuff on their website, but whatever. So yeah, they have some really good stuff like that. That's got like, I mean, they make all different types of ones, but I'll show you sometime. But yeah, so I have like a 19-inch hatchet actually that I keep, which is good. I mean, if you have,
wait, you said you keep it. Is it? Do you have it on your belt somewhere?
Yeah. So I have.
You walk around with like a hatchet on your belt?
I have a belt, and I have like an aluminum sheath that's made for different size axes and hatchets and stuff.
Do you wear anything on your
back?
Keep
it on your belt. Yeah, like it's on like the back, like the middle of the back.
I want you to wear like a big axe like on your back, like some sword, like some knight going into the woods.
You just want me to be like a Viking, basically, right?
I have a very specific vision of you going out into these woods, Brian, and you need to meet this ridiculous expectation.
I'm not slaying a dragon, I'm felling a tree, but...
I don't see a difference. I mean, we've all got our metaphorical dragons in our lives.
You wouldn't want to like wear an axe on your back, because if you like trip and fall,
I know it's a terrible idea. Terrible idea.
Chop your ear off. And stuff.
No one. I don't think anybody ever.
You have like a sheath that the thing sits in, and the handle is up so that you can grab it.
Can you at least have them both in the sides like a cowboy, but with hatchets?
The problem is then like your mobility is all limited, and like so that's why you keep the hatchet like more towards your back.
Okay.
So that as you're bending over, as you're like moving your arms, you're not like catching it on the stuff that's on your belt. There's a specific reason why this placement is there, but anyway. But yes, I could do that. All
right.
I'll do that for you and take a picture.
They make samurai swords. They make machetes that look like samurai swords. You could at least wear one. You could at least bring one of those in.
I do own several machetes as well. They don't work quite as well as you. I
kind of want to just see you wearing all of your hatchets and axes and machetes.
I don't think I could, because I have too many. As much as I like fountain pens,
you'd look like some World of Warcraft character or something like that.
I would actually look ridiculous if I wore. I must have 20 or 25 hatchets.
Oh my god!
Of all different types and sizes and stuff like that. Just because I mean, they're not super expensive. I don't buy like super nice ones, but you get different sizes and different types of handles. And
I have one hatchet. I don't know where it came from, and it's not sharp at all.
You could make it sharp.
I know. I brought it to my brother's once and put it on his belt sander, and neither of us knew what we were doing.
A belt sander? That's not the right tool for the job.
I'm not surprised.
Most likely.
I'm not surprised. I was like, hey, do you have some sort of sander I can sharpen my hatchet with? And he's like, I got a belt sander. I was like, sure.
You know the guy to ask for these types of things.
I know, but yeah.
It's all right. I'll hook you up. Anyway, so yes, felled some trees, which is how I got this beautiful little thing on my thumb. So I got that because I was holding the wedge and smacking it with the back of my hatchet, and my hand like was too much in the way. And I was, even as I was doing it, I was like, yeah, I might hit my hand. I was like, this is not the best placement. Because like
hit my hand.
Yeah, because I was cutting this tree and it was like back leaning a little bit, but I didn't want to go across the driveway because Rachel was gonna have to pick up the kids. So I didn't want to like obstruct anything. So I wanted to fall it in the other direction than it was leaning. Yeah. Which you got to do that sometimes. So I had to make my cut and then start to get my wedge in there, so that it wasn't very deep when I started doing the wedge, and so I had to hold it in place. And I hit the wedge and it slipped off the wedge and then hit my thumb, and I was like, ow. And then I kept working for like 6 hours after that.
Of course you did.
Yeah, it's actually not as bruised as I thought it would. Like you can see it's a little bit blue, but
Ooh.
it's not too bad. I didn't break anything. I'm fine. I'll recover just fine. But it just felt so good to be out there. I was like, I don't even care if I hit my thumb. I'm just going to keep on going. So I did that.
I love that for you.
Yes. And it's just like pine trees. You know, most of them are like 12-inch, 14-inch diameter. It's nothing.
Sounds like a great tree
crazy.
to use just an axe with.
It really actually would be, because most of the trees I'm taking down are like half dead anyway. So it's like they're going to fall down.
All right.
I
I'm
just
going to
need
use
like, take
Oxford
them down.
Blue, and you can chop
I'll
down a
take
tree
down-
with just an axe.
Today would be such a good day. It's like 69 degrees out there right now.
Look at us.
I'm sitting here sweating in here, running
Action
my mouth.
steps.
I need to go home and fell a tree with
Yes.
just an axe. Maybe I'll do that. Okay, so I'll move this along so I have time to go cut down an axe with my hands.
And if you could, set up your phone so you can do a quick time lapse and we can put it on the Pencast next week.
See, that's a difficult thing. Like when I'm cutting trees down, like you can die. It's like one of the most dangerous things you can do. So I never prioritize taking pictures or video of me actually doing that stuff, because
set it and
I
forget it, bro.
100% focus on what I'm doing.
Well, you
Even
can-
like setting up a camera or whatever, I'm like, I don't even want to deal with that. So I need to be like doing it with somebody else
I
who
see.
can be recording or whatever, so I can solely focus on not dropping a tree on myself
That's
or
very
the house
responsible
or
of you.
something. Yeah. So
I don't approve of that at all, but
fair
okay.
enough. Well, it makes for worse videos, but you know. But on the good news, finally watched the second half of Hamilton with my kids. It took forever to get them to do it, but we watched it. They loved it.
Yes.
And now we all have all the songs stuck in our heads.
Excellent.
Yep. So very much enjoying that. And yeah, I think that's all the things I have to say. Have not yet played chess again with Rachel, but we were both under the weather, and I was like super under the weather.
You gotta be
it's
chill
like,
with that. You don't want to force
we both
it.
got to come back. It'll happen. It'll happen. She has not like said anything about not wanting to do it, but it is like just really not even practically been on the table. But kids are still loving it though. We're still
Nice.
playing it. Still playing it. That's all I got.
Lovely.
All right. We got a couple of company updates and then we'll wrap this thing up. All right. So a couple of videos to point out to you if you haven't seen them already. It's the beginning of the new year now, which means that we are wrapping up 2022 content. And so we put out a couple of videos on the hottest inks and the hottest pens
Yep.
of 2022. So we got those out a little bit early for you. Technically, we hadn't finished out the year when we shot those, but we felt confident enough in what had been released. So it's been received really well, and they're very, very fun for us. I think it's like 7 years we've been doing the hottest pens now, something crazy like that. Can't believe we've been doing it that much, but we have those out. And then I got a video out this week on my favorite fall pens, which seems weird because it's like after the holidays, you're like, fall, that seems like forever ago. Technically, fall ended like December 20th. or
Yeah, we
whatever.
wanted to make sure fall was over before
Over.
reviewing best pens of the fall.
So we got a little bit out of order on that one, but still, it's different enough video that I think you'll still like it. So watch that if you haven't. You know, we did have a 3-day weekend, but our team's been catching up on orders. We've been staying, you know, adequately busy, but not so much that we've had to like delay orders or anything like that. Like our team has been really well matched up for the volume that we've had. So we should be in pretty good shape there. And then just, you know, coming up in January here, this is always a very busy time for me because I'll be working on like annual planning and goal setting and all this kind of stuff.
Reviews.
Yeah, reviews will be coming up here in like February, March time.
Oh, I thought
yeah,
it
yeah.
was
So
earlier
it's
than
not
that.
quite yet. So yeah, like January's, we're going to be doing like, you know, reports for all of our vendors, you know, looking
All right.
at sales and all these types of things. So there's a lot of just like looking back at the year and then looking ahead at this coming year. So a lot of stuff that won't be like super talked about in the Pencast or anything like that, but it's just, you know, that's just what we do here at Goulet Pens. It's
Yeah,
very
I love that we
intentional.
do this vendor stuff. So we get products from our vendors, right? And then we sell them to you.
Mm-hmm.
So our vendors that sell the products to us, they don't like, they know what they sell to us, but they don't necessarily know a lot of details about the customer experience. So every year our team, like Brian specifically and Sam, our operations director, and like they go through a lot of data, a lot of numbers, and then they go back and they have these really great reports that they then give the vendors to say, hey, this is how the customer perception has been about your brand, or this is how things actually sold to the customer.
Yeah.
And what performed well. And it's just such a cool
And we
thing
can,
that
and we can summarize other things like, hey, we know there's a lot of people that are asking about, you know, whatever, some product offering, or it's
Yeah.
like, you know, we'll make suggestions in terms of like, everybody wants an extra fine nib on the Metropolitan or something like that. So we can like
Yes.
make recommendations and analyses, but also
Yeah.
we can show like, yeah, looking at last year, it looks like a lot more broad nibs have sold this year than the year before.
It's just something that
maybe we should
that
expand the offerings
our
or
company can
something.
provide the industry in a more holistic sense and to try to enhance everybody's perspective, which I just think is such a cool thing that we do. And I get excited every year.
Well, and to give credit, I'm not spending as much time on it. I put my like icing on the cake.
Yeah.
Sam and Jeremy, our data analysts,
Yeah.
he does a lot too. So to give them fair credit.
It's so
but
cool.
still,
I love that.
There's no like, template for how to do this kind of a thing. This is something we started doing years ago and we've kind of refined it over time. But, it's all in kind of that effort, because I always think like, I don't want to just be like a middleman where like we're buying stuff and selling it and that's it. But like, it is definitely like a value add that we can bring.
It is. And the pen industry is different. Like it is a very close knit group and we're all working toward the same goal. And what that does is help everybody just get a little bit more clarity as to what the customers want, what they value, and how we can best help point A give it to point B. And it's just something I take a lot of pride in. Something
absolutely.
we do here.
Yeah,
I think it's
me too.
exciting.
Yeah. So there you go. That's what's going on with our company stuff. And let's go ahead and wrap this sucker up. And we want to thank you. Oh, what?
But when this publishes, there will also be another video.
Oh, there will.
Oh, wait, no. You already mentioned fall.
No.
Never mind.
Yeah, the fall video. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Ignore me.
No, forget you. Okay, to wrap this thing up, thank you all for watching. I have a great fun fact coming up, so don't leave yet. But please leave us some feedback. We've got lots of things in the comments we asked you to do for this time, so please go back and do that. Ask us any questions you want to see on future shows. We have like an uninterrupted like next many weeks, so like we need to get some Pencast questions like locked and loaded.
I'll be posting another thing on Instagram.
Awesome. Check out gouletpens.com. We are self-funded. So that's our sponsor.
We are sponsored by the Goulet Pen Company.
Go look at that.
Yes.
And subscribe to YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, if it doesn't get banned, and all these things. And you can email us at pencast@gouletpens.com if you're an audio listener and you want to reach out to us without having to go onto a website. All right. My fun fact, Drew, I did sort of a deep dive on this one.
That doesn't
So
sound
I
like
hope I
you.
don't make your brain explode. But my brother-in-law asked me a question over the holidays, and I had to do some research. And as I researched it more, I found some numbers, and I wanted to share them.
I don't understand numbers.
Okay, good. That's why we'll see how much you like this one, but it's fun. So I'll do it. I'll Tarantino it. I'll give you the end, and then we'll go
That'll
back.
make it much more clear.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So if you want the TLDR version, there are more variations of chess moves than there are atoms in our observable universe. Okay. So that's the end goal. I'm going to show you how we get there. So I've mentioned before about combinations of like patterns on a 3x3 Rubik's Cube, right? So this is a previous fun fact that I had. On a 3x3 Rubik's Cube, there are 43 quintillion combinations.
Oh God.
Which is a one with 15 zeros after it, right? Or 43 with 15 zeros after it.
Okay.
So there's more combinations on a 3x3 Rubik's Cube than there are grains of sand on the earth, right?
Okay.
So that's a lot. But that's nothing compared to chess, right? So I had heard an interesting fact somewhere about chess that despite the game being about 1,500 years old, that there's never been the same game of chess that's been repeated, like organically. I mean, you can like look back at a championship game and replay it or something, but like organically playing a game, there's never been two games that have been played the same.
How do they know that though?
I'm going to get there. That's where the math comes in. And it also won't likely ever happen in the future in the existence of our
But if it did happen,
humanity.
they wouldn't know.
So I was curious. I wanted to look it up, right? So yeah, you're right. How would they know? But the math tells a story, right? So the math is a bit hard to grasp because it gets so large. But there is something called the Shannon number. And you can tell your wife about this. It's named after Claude Shannon. So it was the last name. But anyway, still, the Shannon number. You can look it up on Wikipedia. So Claude Shannon created the information theory in 1948, which uses mathematics to understand the rules of governing the transmission of messages through communication systems and all kinds of other things like how sound travels and how bees get honey and all this type of stuff. But anyway, he posed a theory in 1950 that a computer could be programmed to beat humans in chess. This was like way back in the day, back before computing was really mainstream. It took until the 70s for it to actually occur where a chess computer could beat low-level players, but certainly not like grandmasters. But famously, you may have heard of this. IBM's Deep Blue played against the reigning world champion Garry Kasparov in 1996 and beat him. So he was the best chess player in the world. The computer beat him in a chess tournament. So, and chess engines have only gotten stronger since. Now it's impossible to beat a chess engine like ever because they're so strong, because the computing power has gotten so much better. So we're seeing now that like his theory has like played out, right? So long story short, using a lot of math, math that I don't understand, but the Shannon number has the number of possible legal moves in a chessboard as 10 to the power of 43. So I guess that's what, like a 10 with 43 zeros after it?
I don't know.
Which if you think about like the Rubik's Cube thing, that's a 43 with 15 zeros. So think about 43 zeros.
Anything after a million makes no sense to me.
So that's just the number of possible moves on a chessboard. But the average chess game is 80 moves. So you have like, you know, basically 40 pairs of moves. Like you have white and then you have black makes a move. So like 40 pairs. That's so Shannon used the 40 pair move thing as a standard for like a typical chess game. So Shannon's number estimates a lower boundary of 10 to the power of 120 of possible chess games. Whereas the estimated number of atoms in the observable universe is 10 to the power of 78 or 10 to the power of 82, somewhere in that range. So it's quite a bit larger, in fact, than... So there's estimated to be closer to maybe 10 to the power of 40 of reasonable sensical games of 80 moves of chess that would be played. I mean, not just like mathematically ones that would make any sense, but, you know, even with the most conservative of estimates, it's so unfathomably large, the number of combinations that can happen of chess games, that all of humanity, if they were playing chess for the rest of reasonable existence, would never see the game come up twice. Isn't that crazy?
Uh-huh.
I've drained all of Drew's remaining life force out of his body. Anyway, it was really fascinating. If y'all understand math better, please, it's pretty fascinating. But, you know.
My back hurts, and I think I have a headache in the center of my eyes. Like if you drew a line through my temple, right here is where it hurts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want something even crazier? I didn't even write this in my notes.
I don't.
This is a bonus fact.
Oh my God.
So have you heard of the game Go? It's like you have black and white beads.
G-O-H?
No, just Go. Just G-O.
Is it like
or maybe it's G-O. I don't know if it's...
It's like the star-shaped thing?
No, it's like a board game.
I don't know.
It's like a grid and you put... Anyway.
Yeah, I think I have.
It's even
like
older.
Japanese or something?
It's even older than chess. Chinese, yeah. It's like
okay.
4,000 years old. That's even more complicated than chess in terms of the combinations. But no, it's just really fascinating. So they, building on the AI technology from like Deep Blue and all that kind of stuff, they created something called AlphaGo in 2015. So this is basically like the game with the most number of possible combinations, like the most complicated game that there is out there, even more so than chess. And in 2015, they created an engine that beat the reigning champion. So that, you know, the computing power, it was, you know, these kind of things are touted as like AI is like achieve some kind of a, you know, thing, but it's like, it's a very closed system. So it's like a very, very much AI that's put in a box.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know how much of an achievement it is for humanity, so to speak, but it was like, I watched a whole documentary on it. It was pretty fascinating, the whole AlphaGo technology they came up with. But anyway, the number of combinations in Go was like 10 to the power of 170 or something crazy. Like so large. But anyway.
Oh man.
It's very complicated.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of math involved, and it's like to the point where like they can't, like using supercomputers, they can't even like brute force calculate these things. They've had to like get into like complex theories to even do the math to come up with these things. So people much smarter than I have done that, but I don't know. So that was a little fun fact for you. If you have any brain power left at the end of this Pencast.
I'm sure that some people would consider that fun.
I think it's fun,
Yeah, I know.
but I'm a glutton for pain. So
That's why you hit yourself in the hand with
myself in the hand.
hatchets.
Yep.
God. See, I would ask you that I would need to go home early now, but it's pretty much the end of the day already,
It's
so I
getting
can't.
close to the end of
I
it,
can't
yeah.
even say like the owners punish me to the
You've gotta
point where
take that.
I request to go home early.
You got to take that.
I've got to
bring it home. You can go tell Shannon. Just tell her go Google.
I'm not going to
Shannon's
repeat
number.
any of this.
Just say just Google Shannon's
Why
number.
would I do that to her?
Because it's a cool thing.
Oh.
I wish there was like a Brian's number.
You
That would
can
be
have it.
cool. I don't know. Maybe
I'll
there
talk to
is.
Shannon. You can have it. I'm
Yeah,
sure she'll
let
say
me know.
yes.
Let me know what she says. She won't care. Anyway, that's all we got for this week. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Maybe.
Right on.